Welcome to the EST Hangout.
This is the EST Hangout, and today's guests are...
A good Tuesday morning to you. Welcome to the EST Hangout, presented by Sentinel Storage, live right here on Edmonton Sports Talk, your clear choice for Edmonton sports. It's CFL free agency day. We're 1 hour away till teams could officially sign free agents from other teams. For the next 2 hours, we're talking CFL here on the Hangout. Thanks to everyone for listening live on TuneIn, iHeartRadio, EdmontonSportsTalk.com, for those watching on YouTube, and for those listening wherever you get your podcasts. On the show today, Matt Iwanyk, Tom Gazzola, Hernan Salas with us here. Why are you looking that way?
Well, I wanted to see myself.
Oh, you know, the camera's over there, though.
I know.
Okay, just making sure. Because you weren't staring at the camera when you were doing like a muscle thing. We got Lucas Holt with us. Welcome, Lucas Holt, who is a Chris Jones guy.
I am a Chris Jones guy.
He's a Chris Jones
From
t-shirt.
the Kansas City Chiefs.
Huh?
From the Kansas
Oh, yeah. That was last year.
Oh, nice football socks, too.
Yes, thank you. It's football day.
I wore my football socks on Sunday.
Oh. For what?
The second biggest football game of the year. Actually,
correct.
some might argue the third biggest football game of the year.
Are you talking the UFL?
No.
No.
NCAA
college
football.
Oh, yeah.
You could argue. Some in this room might argue that that's bigger than Super Bowl some years.
Interesting.
Some would.
Some would in this room.
We won't say who. Huh?
Wouldn't be me.
Wouldn't be me.
It might be
That's
me.
fine.
It might
hat.
be
Could be
Lucas.
Nice hat.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Nice hat.
Thanks.
I can get up for a national championship more than the Super Bowl.
For sure. Especially this one.
What's that
This
look for,
last one.
Hernan?
We all just looked at each other like,
Why? Why not?
Wasn't this the college final? Wasn't it a blowout?
It was closer. It was
wasn't this
closer than
Super
the
Bowl,
NCAA. It was closer than this Super Bowl.
No, I know.
It
But,
came down to the final couple minutes of the game.
Yeah.
Notre Dame made
got
it
a
very
little
close
closer,
late.
Yeah.
but they were like, okay.
It wasn't that as big of a blowout. Like this one was over in the second quarter. Of the
And
Super
it wasn't
Bowl.
garbage points.
The
towards end.
NCAA, like it was a point where Notre Dame almost like you're like, okay, they're going to do this. They might tie this. We might go to overtime here, and then they blew it.
The playoffs, we kind of got
Yes.
what you were expecting with,
But
some
the
teams that shouldn't be there.
The
But
Grey Cup was kind of like that too, though, right? Like Toronto.
But the good thing, like with the Grey Cup though, or any CFL, it's you're not out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like when they were saying too with like the Super Bowl, and I think they're up by like 31 points or something like that. It's like, oh, there's a chance. It's like maybe in the CFL,
Yeah.
like you could actually
back.
physically come back in the CFL. But
That's a good point.
yeah, so
The game's designed for the comebacks and stuff. So yeah, no, the Grey Cup is the biggest game.
UFL final.
I couldn't.
That was a blowout last year. It was a shutout. I looked yesterday when we were
Did the Battlehawks
I
win?
love that he knows.
The battle.
Well, I know because I literally was
Who
looking
was
up when
it?
their season started, and I just looked, and it just showed me that they had like a absolute domination.
I couldn't even tell you what the name of the league was. I was so confused on it.
They had the XFL division and then the USFL division.
And now it's just the UFL
and
altogether?
combined under the UFL umbrella.
Which started last year. So last season,
Oh, close one.
Skip Holtz and the Birmingham Stallions, who were 9-1 last season.
Skip Holt?
Skip Holt. Holtz. Holtz.
Yeah.
No relation.
No relation.
25-0 over the San Antonio Brahmas, coached by Wade Phillips.
Nice.
So that one was just, and Birmingham went into that game favored by 3.5 points.
I think Elizondo's somewhere there.
He went back, right?
He was the OC, and then last year he got demoted because his team was doing really bad.
Oh.
Yeah, was that last year or was that 2 years ago in the XFL?
Might have been 2 years ago then.
But he went back to, I think he went to Houston, and he got demoted there.
Yeah, I know he got demoted.
And I don't know if Jamie Elizondo's popped up anywhere.
You ever curious of what he could have done up here for the Elks if it wasn't because he was here going into would have been the COVID
San Antonio
season if it would have-
Brahmas.
Yeah, right.
He had the one season where
Yeah.
they were bad.
He wasn't designed to be a head coach, I don't think. Because
No,
Hernan and I were doing pre and posts at the time. And there'd be times like post games when he was talking. I remember you got really mad at him because he'd just let everyone off the hook. And he'd like, yeah, I wasn't good enough. And it was like late in the season now and they're like losing and he's still like, yeah, I just
I was
wasn't
thinking of
there today.
Milanovic.
Milanovic.
That-
yeah.
He made a $500,000 doing nothing.
Yeah, that's who I was wondering.
I do wonder what would have happened with Scott
Right?
Milanovic.
Yeah.
Because at the time, when he came back to Edmonton, you could make the argument right off the bat that he was maybe I think I would have went like second best coach in the Canadian Football League.
And who was their quarterback at the time too?
Trevor
Harris.
Yeah.
Trevor Harris.
He was going to be the quarterback whisperer to him and get everything figured out. And yeah,
Like, who knows what happens with the Elks if Milanovic is, gets a good 2-3 years on this team. You don't have Chris Jones.
yeah.
You don't have the struggles.
Because was it part to him that they fell into the struggles of their coaching cap and all that kind of stuff too? Yeah,
That's right.
so like, yeah.
No, I don't think the Milanovic money would have been impacted on the coaching cap because he left.
It was Brock and Moss.
Yeah, they were still paying Jason. They had,
he have anything to do with
Yeah,
it?
but I don't think
Milanovic.
Milanovic would have been part of that because he left. It's
Yeah.
not like he got
Then they
fired.
brought in Elizondo.
Yeah, and
but
then
they still had like 2 or 3 coaches on the books, and they had to get reprieve from the league.
Yeah, but that's where I don't think Milanovic would have
Milanovic
ever
didn't have anything to do
counted
with
though.
I don't think
Because-
Milanovic was on the books.
Once he
got
left.
paid.
Right, but
I
they
don't
didn't play a
think he had-
season. But then the
he
next year,
took a hit.
because he
Yeah.
left, there was no severance pay or there was no money being paid by the Elks to him because he went to take a different job. Like he didn't get fired, that he wouldn't have been on the books.
Right. Okay.
But they were paying Moss. They were paying you would pay the coaching staff.
Brock.
Yeah.
But then when Elizondo, Brock were let go, that was the big one because you had those 2 guys
Yeah.
that were thrown in there.
Because I remember Chris Jones before leading up to the game, we do those coaches press conferences or whatever, and he's like, "Man, we're paying guys to not coach this team right now, and I can only pay X amount of guys and bring them in."
Well, when McAdoo got left too,
Oh, geez.
they kept him on just because he was one of the homies, right? Like,
Yeah.
he wasn't doing anything.
Right.
Even last year, he was technically a scout, but he was in Memphis and he wasn't doing anything.
Just getting paid.
Yeah.
Well, he would have got paid anyway, though. Even
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He was under contract, right?
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, like I know everyone's kind of hate for Chris Jones and around here, but like, man, dude was handcuffed too.
Big time.
Like,
Yeah, but he didn't do himself some favors.
but
like that's and I'll go even if I'm not going to talk quarterbacking here. He
I will.
he stuck with Steve McAdoo for too long. Everyone knew he wasn't a good OC. Everyone knew he wasn't capable enough. And
Well,
he
you knew
stuck
it in
with him long
Saskatchewan
enough.
too. You knew it.
And if you talk to, and I know you've brought it up,
McAdoo's got
talking
pictures
to
or
guys like
something.
Eddie Steele or guys who were on the 2015 Elks
Yeah.
Grey Cup winning team, where that offense picked it up in the second half. They all say it wasn't McAdoo. Michael Riley was calling his own plays.
Yeah, lots of
And so
audibles.
like that in itself was just like, okay, Chris Jones failed because he put a loyalty ahead of the team's success.
I think too, like, I think Chris Jones it was his way, no matter what. Like,
You can get stubborn. Yep.
So year 1, he admitted he went too old. Year 2, he admitted he went too young. He said it at the press conference the year end. But then again, the way he ran practice, the way he did things, like from year 1 to year 3 till he got fired, he didn't change one thing.
Yeah.
When everybody was telling him, like, hey, like it worked in 2015. Yeah, but that was 9 years ago. Like, it's time to.
But and you see it.
Evolve.
I guess you see it in hockey too, right? Or like old guard coaches, they're starting to kind of guys don't care for that. They
Correct.
want the the Maces, those types of
Yeah.
guys.
They
the
want you to
young-
evolve as a
yeah.
coach. They
Like,
want you to move with the times.
And you want to be relatable to the
Yes.
players that you're coaching.
And this
too,
was
right?
no secret because, like, if you're in the media, you got my practice alerts. We wouldn't get practice time till the morning of the day. Like, you can't run a pro team. Like, to us, and I'd even ask some of the players, like, well, hey, like he's like, it's just the way he does it. Like, it'd be nice to know what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you
But
didn't
is that
know.
how he's always done it, or is it just that like now that you have so many hats, like the last thing you're getting to in that day is like setting the practice time stuff?
But it's like every other team had a weekly schedule on Monday.
But was every other team having the same amount? Like that one person was wearing that many hats? Like I don't know.
Dickinson.
Yeah.
But like it's just like for me, it was just practice.
Well,
Like,
Dickie did both. Rick Campbell was somewhat doing both last year. He was a GM and a head coach.
But he was doing 3 though, wasn't he? He was GM, head coach, and defensive coordinator
last
until they
season.
brought not last season when they brought Shivers
Shivers.
in. They took over.
Yeah, but and that was at the start of last season. Like going into
Right.
the season, they had Shivers. So last season he was 2 hats, just like the other.
But last season though, like he was more worried about keeping his job, and
Which
this
is
what
dangerous.
Which I've talked
Which
to
is
you before
dangerous.
about. Like I can understand like everybody's push to have Trey Ford being the guy, but like, sorry, that regime didn't have time to develop somebody. They needed to get in there, win to save their own.
And
jobs.
that's why they made to be fired right away.
Yeah, they made the mistake.
Exactly.
They made the mistake in year one in September, re-upping with Taylor Cornelius.
Yeah, that was
Because
unnecessary.
Taylor Cornelius came in week 5 of 2022. He won games, but he wasn't very good.
But when you actually like look at him, like just
He didn't win a lot of games.
Not thinking of like knowing what we know now, but when you think about like what was he was like 6'5". Yeah. Just a big guy, rocket arm. He could run. Like on paper, when you're looking at that, like, man, that guy could
Ideal
be
quarterback.
something.
Which I don't know whether to
But he's an
blame
idiot.
him or McAdoo, because there were times where like the games that he had the most success were the games he moved.
Yeah.
He ran like he would run for 50 plus yards in those games.
Yeah.
And then like I remember there was an Ottawa set. It was back to back. They went to Ottawa. He ran. They won. They were coming home. It's like, they're going to end the losing streak here at home because they're going to run the same game plan. And then he was a pocket quarterback the whole game, and they fell down like 21-0. And it was like, well, why isn't he moving?
But
And
that was still under a McAdoo offense.
Well, that's where I don't know if it was him or if it was
him.
him or McAdoo or him. But then I went and talked to him in the start of training camp in 23, days before we were let go, because that was on the Saturday and we were let go on the Wednesday. And I asked him about possibly using his legs more, and he seemed like the way the answer he gave me was like, no, I'm a quarterback. And he didn't want to use his legs, and I'm just like, but this is actually an asset for you. Like you were really you were a decent quarterback. Better than decent quarterback when you were mobile, because it opened up his arm and he had a really good arm.
Yeah.
But he never wanted to do it. And I don't know if it was fully McAdoo or if it was him. But if he had just tried to be a dual threat quarterback to some degree, I think he could have had a decent career in the CFL.
It's interesting too, though, because Chris Jones was heavily into the analytics. Like they were charting practice.
Really?
Which is odd to me.
Yeah,
He doesn't
that is
seem
odd.
like that type of guy.
Yeah,
right?
and we had a 49ers guest on like during the season, and he goes, because the 49ers weren't having a good year. He goes, I always have an issue when you're going too far with the analytics. And the guy told us, he goes, they're charting practice, and they're going off. And practice is practice, guys.
Yeah.
It's like, I get it. But in that sense, too, like, you've gone so hard into the analytics. It's not working. You won 8 games in the first year. In the third year, you double down on it even more. So it's like, okay, Taylor had great numbers in practice, but in a real game,
he's not getting hit in practice either, right?
yeah, like the other guys play a different defense. The other guys have different schemes. So that's where I feel like, maybe some of these quarterbacks were failed because they were leaning too heavily on analytics. He wouldn't change his ways on how to run it. Look when Jarius took over, guys. Look at the run game.
Yeah, that's a new coach bump.
No, but that's because Chris Jones wouldn't let him call certain packages, right? Like, so they were kind of freed from that, and the offense kind of took off.
It really
kinda
did.
take off.
Yeah.
It did take off.
Cornelius' speed of taking off took off against Toronto in that one game. I was working it. I was on the sidelines, and he knocked Boamba, blew him up. And I think I was
Maybe
right in
that's
front of
why he
me.
didn't want
And
That's when he had the
spleen.
spleen.
Yeah.
Because he didn't go out of bounds.
Yeah.
He got that hit was a
He went too far.
monster hit, and I was just like, oh. And I'm like, how is he getting up? And then when I found out he was in hospital, I'm like, wow, yeah, like he got just blown up by Moamba. And
Because I think in that game, because again,
I'd be
this was
scared.
the Elks were looking to win
Yes,
that first home game.
Yes.
And Trey Ford had to come in. He threw a pick.
first play, I think.
Yeah. And then they ultimately lost that football game in the end.
I
They
think
were
you're
closing
right.
to get the win, and
They had a
Cornelius
lead.
drove them there. Yeah, because Cornelius had that run, but he didn't. He chose not to run out of bounds. Instead, for some reason, he chose to take that extra hit, and then he got hurt. And then Trey came in through a terrible pick.
Yes.
And they ultimately lost that football game. It was like, oh, here's another way they lose football games.
Yeah,
So-
and then and that night he ended up in the hospital because after the game he was fine, but then he got home and he like fainted.
Oh man.
Yeah, and then Trey Ford started the last game against BC.
He was awful in that one. too.
He started the first drive, touchdown to Dylan Mitchell, and then nothing after.
In that game, I remember because I actually went to that game. I pre-recorded my pregame show. The game looked way too fast for him. Looked way too fast for him.
I think
And that
Nathan
was-
Rourke's first start was like that too. I think he
It
got
was
lit
against
up pretty good,
Saskatchewan.
Yeah,
Remember? I mean, do you remember the whole controversy with that one?
because they
listed Michael Riley as the
Yeah, and
starter,
then he
and then
came-
they started Nathan Rourke, and at half they made the switch because it
Yeah.
didn't go well. And then look at Nathan Rourke and what he did. We'll see if he can do it this year. Enough about the past as much. We got to look forward because it is the 2025 season. You could throw up the Elks graphic there, Brendan. The Edmonton Elks, they're the team that's expected to do the most today when free agency does officially open at 10 o'clock. Lucas and I were talking before the show. A lot of teams kept their players. Edmonton probably was the one team that grabbed players from other teams besides Ottawa. Yeah. Ottawa's maybe the only other
go out
team.
And get your jerseys, everyone. That's what we've all wanted, is for players to stick around more. So,
a lot of those teams did do that. For the Edmonton Elks, the players that we're expecting in once free agency opens and then over the course of the next couple of days, offensive lineman David Beer, defensive lineman Jared Brinkman, defensive lineman Jake Serezda, defensive back Terrell Ford, punter Cody Grace, receiver Keanu Julian Grant, offensive lineman Gregor McKellar, defensive back Royce Metry, receiver Tyson Middlemost, defensive back Emmanuel Rugamba, defensive lineman Robbie Smith, defensive back Kobe Williams. I don't think I was missing anyone when that was announced yesterday.
Let me see.
Brett Boyko has signed. That is an official signing. Niles Morgan has signed. Jake Plamondon has signed. They've been extended with this club here.
Jacob Plamondon, a big Dungeons and Dragons guy.
Actually?
Yes, Reed should have him on.
I don't think Reed plays that show.
Reed doesn't. I just assumed he did.
I thought he did.
Now, Reed, he's an angel and a sweetheart. He invited me to play some card game at his place, and I'm like, Reed, I have no patience for those types of things.
I will tell Reed, he's been asking me whether he should go buy this specific game or not. I told him at some point this season, the Oilers season, if he wants to, after his show, if there's an earlier game or something, I will come in and during an Oiler game play a board game with him. I'm fascinated by the board games. I have no idea.
13 Dead End Drive?
I never got the invite.
It was
go ahead.
Apparently, there are single player board games.
Oh God,
I never knew this.
Well, whatever. You know what? There's single player video games.
I know,
right?
but
So why not?
I'm like pretty impressed that there's like you play like missions and stuff, and you can play single player board games, which is I'm learning this while having Redrick with us here.
He taught me about the types of dice that you can get. Do you know what a D100 is?
It's a 100-sided die.
That's right. Hard to roll.
I would imagine it's probably like a medicine ball.
You get the metal one. It's weighted. I learned a lot about the D100 last week.
I'd buy it.
You could throw the other graphic up there, Brendan. These are the couple players that we're expecting to change places, which includes Eugene Lewis to Ottawa, Nafis Lyon, Tundela Delke to Ottawa, Kenny Lawler to Hamilton, Reggie Stubblefield to Hamilton, Dominic Rhymes, Tevin Jones, Damon Webb to Calgary, Darius Bratton to Toronto, and then friend of the Hangouts, Gavin Cobb, going to Winnipeg.
Bratton's a tough one. He's a good player, man.
So I didn't have time to. I was thinking about maybe doing an Elks depth chart. I didn't get into a full depth chart, but okay. The big players that we're expecting to sign later today, or not expect, I shouldn't say that at all. The players that are still left, we had Kadeem Carey, Alex Hollins.
Yeah, I said Lanier.
Those are the couple. Sean Oakman, if you want.
Big Oak.
He's Canadian, so
Hollins will land somewhere. He's too good of a player.
It's just crazy that you haven't heard really any talk about.
Might be more to that story there, Luke.
He had some injury issues last year.
He did.
And he's got the drops too from time to time where like big wide open. I had him last year as a starting wide receiver for the Dunya, and there are some games, man, wide open and dropping a ball like to get you. So there's got to be something else to it, sort of like the Jamal Morrow when he went to Calgary last year and then couldn't pass his physical. So who knows? I don't know.
Do you guys think Kadeem Carey calls it a career?
He should.
I wouldn't.
He's got, but
he was a beast last year in Toronto.
Before we continue with that, I just want to, for those that aren't aware, so tampering opened last Sunday, the 2nd. Teams had the right to negotiate with all the free agents up until this past Sunday. Then the last 2 days, teams were able to only speak to their pending free agents. So none of the deals that have been agreed to over the last week are official. There's ways for that to fall out. One of the players that was expected to go to Ottawa was actually Trey Roberson from Calgary, but that deal has fallen through. That one they said wasn't because of money. We talked about it on the Hangout yesterday. There was the salary cap weirdness that happened where the CFL and the PA announced that there was an increase in the salary cap midweek last week when players had already agreed to deals. So there's still a chance for some players to maybe go, I'm going to back out. I want to make a little bit more money. So we'll see what happens. Once 10 o'clock hits, then we could wait and see when our players official. So all those expected in, there's a chance one or two of those players still might not end up as an Edmonton Elk.
That's why it says expected.
And that because
it's not confirmed.
I'd be stunned if there's any real changes from all the players that have agreed to deals, but I'm expecting one or two. So that's all. So when we say expected and all that, that's what we're going with over the next hour. Back to Kadeem Carey.
32 years old. He just won. Because it seemed like at the Grey Cup after the game, it seemed like he was like just in his tone and the way he was speaking that he might be like, I'm good. Yeah.
It'd be a good time to do it. Like you can never go out any higher than a Grey Cup champion. But man, if I was him, and I guess depending on your body and where you are in your life, and like we all know that like CFL, you got to have a career, and so maybe when he found out that Toronto's not going to be re-signing him, don't want to pack up and move. I don't know his family situation, so there could be that. But man, like just the way that he played last year, like if somebody said wanted to take a flyer out on him,
who needs a running back? Hamilton? Calgary.
Hamilton's got Greg Bell.
Yeah, Hamilton always. We were talking about this too. Like, they always seem to just find somebody,
and they don't run the ball.
And when they do, it's like we were talking like a few years ago is Thomas Erlington and Irons, and like the guy will just come in for a game and then you'll never see him again, but he'll rush for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns or something like that.
But Greg Bell had good stats last year.
Yeah,
until he got hurt.
I can't see because Kadeem talked pretty bad about Craig Dickinson.
Yeah,
but they also there was another player that talked bad about Calgary recently, and he just resigned.
Yeah,
or went there.
Florian.
So maybe there is a.
Was that during with the trade with
Toronto?
Judge?
Yeah. He's talked a lot of smack about Calgary too.
So the only teams that I could like maybe Montreal, they have Walter Fletcher who they extended. But maybe they sit there and go, we could take it up. Because Kadeem Carey, there is an injury concern a little bit. When he's healthy, he is one of the best backs in the game, straight up.
Mm-hmm.
But when he's not, like when he's out like 2 years ago with Calgary, like I don't even know if he played half the season type thing. Like when he gets hurt, he's hurt for a while. So you need maybe a 2-back system with him.
Well, then
the other place is Calgary.
Who's Toronto then got for? They
brought in Kevin Brown, and they have
McMahon.
McMahon.
Yeah, I forgot about Brown.
About that one, damn.
Yeah, so
I was thinking it was like in December. Where they announced that Kevin Brown signed there.
And that's a John Murphy move because the Argos did this last year. Yeah, I think if we go to free agency, one of the losers we could have claimed was Toronto.
Was Toronto. They lost everyone.
They were losing everyone. Yeah. They were going to Hamilton. They were going here. They were going there. And John Murphy finds players.
And that's just like
lost AJ Ouellette.
Although you might make big splashes, and it's great to see who you all sign in February, man. Like, doesn't mean anything when it comes to November.
No, I agree with you, man. Like I was telling Maddie the other day off air. I'm like, I'm a little worried because usually the team that spends the most, it usually doesn't go your way to start, right?
No, you can turn it around for sure pretty quick. But like we've seen this before, where the winners in February, like the Elks, when they got Harris and
it was Ellis, Ellingson, and Sir Vincent Rogers.
Yeah, it was a big. Yeah. I was like, everyone was talking about how great they're going. I don't think they made the playoffs that year.
Sir Vincent Rogers didn't play till like the second year.
Yeah. They made the playoffs, but it was like
he never played a game.
It was like third or
for sure.
On the first few years of Jason Moss,
yeah.
and post Michael Riley, they did still make the playoffs, but it was like crossovers and things like that. But Sir Vincent Rogers was a shame because he was a top offensive lineman, and he didn't play a game.
I think he dressed for maybe a couple.
Because he got hurt back-to-back years.
I thought he got into a couple in the second year.
Yeah, I think so too. And then he got hurt again.
Yeah.
Was it hurt early or was it hurt late?
It was early because I remember being pumped and then he was out again. So we called him street clothes on the pre and post game show.
The interesting part is like the Riders were one of those teams I would argue won for agency last year. They went to the West Final and they were a wind away from winning the West. But the other flip side to that is the players that the biggest names that they brought last year weren't actually the reasons
part
that
of
they
it.
were
Okay, but-
as successful. That was
found
an
depth.
interesting one though for the
They found
Riders
depth.
Okay,
last
but
year.
did they win free agency because of the coaching stuff? Because they didn't bring in a lot of new faces.
Last year
They brought
Yeah.
in.
they brought in
Well,
quite a
Ed-
bit
But their receiving core was all guys they had.
defensively. They did a lot defensively.
Yeah, they got
remember.
Thurman. Who else did they bring in on free agency?
But it wasn't
they,
like Elks, 10 guys.
No.
right?
This
No,
is
gosh,
this.
no.
I don't know if we've ever
Yeah.
seen.
Yeah.
this one.
this is big too, and the amount of Canadians that you guys brought in too is just
Unreal.
unbelievable. Like half of your starting DEO is like Canadian, and your whole line like it's remarkable. That's a big win having that many Canadians there.
So he played 3 games in 2021.
But also injuries, man. Like injuries.
That
It can
was it.
change a whole thing, right?
In September. He came
The
back in
Elks,
September.
The Elks were active last year, but not on free agency. They did all their moves in January.
Yeah.
Because I think because Brian Swain would always text me because I was sending out the releases. I think we sent out 19 straight days of transactions. Now, a lot of them were college guys.
Yeah,
from
yeah,
the
yeah.
US, But we did, the Elks did the Curly trade. They did
Yep.
the McLeod signing in the offseason.
It was
Boris
Beatty.
Beatty, Javon Leak.
Yeah.
Well, those were for agency.
Yeah.
So it was Beatty, it was Leak, and there was one more. I think because it was like 3 guys. I feel like that was
Did they
it.
Yeah.
trade for Mayala, or was that a signing?
Signing.
And
He's
that
going
came a
to
little
Toronto.
bit later.
I liked him, although he got hurt last.
He was good.
I like your guys' receivers. Now without like that big name.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's I don't know. They've had it in Saskatchewan here for the last little while where you don't have this big name guy and it doesn't seem like there's any ego to get the balls to him. So like and then it frees it up too, right? Like to bring in like you freed up with just in 2 players like $850,000.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Goes a long way, I think.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I've kind of shifted my, like, in the CFL, I don't think you need the big name on the receiving core.
I like it if I'm an up and coming team to a degree because it gives a safety net to a team that doesn't have a quarterback. When
Like
Kenny
Ottawa
Law-
with Eugene?
it's when you just have to put the ball in the vicinity. You don't have to be great and put it right on target. You get it close to them, they will grab the ball. They will, and I actually like that a little bit. It does take away money from other spots. I think, though, like last year, I didn't like the Elks. It was the spending on an MBT. I thought they could have used that in other spots, which they're clearly doing differently this year. And I like Ed's way of trying to build. He builds down the spine. He'll talk about safety, middle linebacker, D line, O line, quarterback. I don't know if he throws the running back into that. And I like what they've done there. We go back to what also happened with the Super Bowl. The Eagles O line dominated the Chiefs D line,
Yeah.
and vice versa. On the
Yeah.
D line, the Eagles D line absolutely dominated the Chiefs, and it's just such a cliche in football, but it's so true. It's the trenches that you win.
Yep.
And where did Ed Hervey go spend the money?
Yeah.
You know,
Hold on.
3 offensive linemen, all from Toronto, which was the number 1 defensive line in the Canadian Football League last year, while also bringing in their coach for that, and then bolsters his O line with.
Which was already a good O-line last year.
Which I was completely off
Yeah.
on last year.
but continuity. Like,
it was
these guys got to be able to stay
Cordy will
together.
move
Yeah.
over. You still have your tackles that are the exact same. Beard's going to know some of these guys still, and then you're bringing in that left.
Beard will know all of them, except for Boyko. Like, they were all there when Beard got traded.
Well, the offensive guard is going to be different. The left guard.
Yeah, because Foucault's out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
But
they
it-
brought in that guy from Toronto. And then you still have Tomas.
But also won't know
Jackardella.
the offensive line coach, per se.
That's true, because Sorrells is in his 3rd year. He came in 2023, yeah. He's a good coach, man. There's a reason why
He's the
They're
only
keeping him.
retaining.
he's a really good offensive line coach. So, and I don't think, I think it's huge that Beard's back because that moves Cordy to his natural spot.
Mhm.
It's just that much better.
And then also too, you do have that kind of depth too. So if to say Beard does go down, you can move Cordy over. Like injuries are going to happen.
Yeah.
And especially on the offensive line, like this is where continuity is the most important. Like to be able to have an injury and then still be able to keep a guy,
Yeah.
like it's move him over. It's huge.
Then on the D line, like Matty said, you have the Canadian guys, but then you had Noah Curtis, Jamin Pelly. They re-signed Sam Achimpong, Canadian. So the defense is a lot of Canadians.
Yeah, that's if starting Mechie at safety, right? He would be your starting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Tyrell Ford.
Yeah.
The thing though, I
sweet.
just love the continuity. Like they took an entire D line from Toronto, basically.
Yeah.
It's not you're bringing in a bunch of guys and putting them together, and camp comes in. Okay, you guys got to figure each other out.
They already know.
It's these three guys know each other.
Yeah.
They know what their defensive line coach is going to expect from them. It's one guy now that has to learn what the rest are doing. And it's a Noah Curtis or something that has to learn that. Like it's not like Ed Hervey went out and went, okay, here's a defensive lineman from BC, here's one from Toronto, here's one from Hamilton. Let's put you guys together, build a little all-star defensive line, have at it. It's okay, you three know each other, perfect. We'll take you three and put you here instead. And I like that type of move. I think it gives them a leg up in camp because there's a lot of new faces now in Edmonton.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it gives them a leg up on the defensive line at least, where it's not, okay, hey, nice to meet you. I'm blank. I'm blank type stuff. It's let's get right to work. We know what we're doing. Hey, Noah, this is how we do things.
Yeah. I don't know. Edmonton should be excited about what they got coming. Buy your tickets now. Go and support the team because they went out and did some stuff.
Who in the West takes a step back?
Can Calgary
Winnipeg.
take a further step?
Because I think Calgary's going to be better.
Really?
I do. I think Vernon Adams is 3 more wins.
I can see BC. Honestly, like, I know we're all pretty hot and horny over Rourke, but you know, when he came back, like, he didn't do a whole
Very
heck
mixed
of
results.
a lot. They lost a lot of guys.
New OC though, Buck Pierce, head coach.
Yeah, but you know, like, is Hatcher going to be as healthy as he was? You still got McInnes, brought in Lennius. Their defense wasn't that great either.
What have they done to improve the defense?
So I could see him taking a step back. It'd all be depending on what Rourke does. If Rourke can find his pace and he can find his and get back at it before he went to the NFL, then they could be better. But if he struggles, like,
You don't think
and-
Winnipeg can take a step back?
I think.
oh,
they are.
definitely.
He
But
did say that.
until they do, I'm not going to. We've said that for the last few years that they could be taking step backs. But
Yeah.
if they have
Closest,
a
but
healthy
they still won the West.
they have a healthy Brady Oliveira and they have a healthy Zach Caleros, they can, again, they find guys. They brought people in too. You know, like, I know Cobb's more of a secondary receiver, but they still have shown. They
Dylan
got
Mitchell.
Cobb, Mitchell. They got Stearns. I'm high on Stearns. I was hoping that the
They
Riders would
turned Nick
re-sign him.
and Dembski around.
Yeah,
He was an player in Saskatchewan. And
You did lose some on
became
your
a star.
defense,
Yeah.
but they can find guys and get them up to pace pretty quick. They did lose their offensive coordinator though too, so there is that. But until I see them take a step back, I'm not gonna.
think about that. They also had Paul Lapolis at the start of this run. They've lost OCs before.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
changed their DC last year. Richie Hall got demoted at the start of last season.
Yeah.
And they put some. So they've made those changes before and they've continued to win. To BC, I'm always going to be skeptical of a first-time head coach having to wear a second hat. So if Buck Pierce is also going to be the OC, I'm a little skeptical of that to a degree. I'm also just not sold on Buck Pierce. And then I'll have to wait and see. I don't know. So we'll see what happens with the BC Lions. They're the team that I think is the most likely to take a significant step back because it's they didn't address defense though.
Well, let's ask the tough question. What about the Riders? Trevor Harris have a good year in him?
Bronco Nick
if
doesn't
he
think so. He says Harris is not the answer.
Trevor Harris?
Bronco Nick says Trevor Harris is not the answer.
Well, maybe not. But what they did do though is they upgraded in a backup quarterback role with Jake Mayer. Now, say what you will about him and how he played last year.
Yeah.
He was also
He at
Calgary.
least has, you know, starting experience.
Yeah.
He plays a similar game to Trevor Harris. So if Trevor Harris was to go out, there's not a whole lot of change that would go
It's
into
not
that.
Shea Patterson.
And
Yeah.
if you can keep, you know, a healthy AJ Ouellette and a healthy Brock Armstead, like we talk about the tandem that they have here in Edmonton. It's a pretty good running back
Yeah.
tandem. With all the injuries that they had last year on the O-line, they did find some guys to fill spots. So there is the depth on the O-line. I like the receivers that they have. And then the defense. The defense is just, you know, they got rid of a couple guys in the backfield in the secondary in Henderson and Williams. I thought were kind of, you know,
Henderson struggled a lot.
Henderson was tough,
Yeah.
and those two were swapping back and forth. One guy would play, the other guy would sit, and
Yeah.
vice versa. So those guys are both gone now. A Canadian and Campbell coming back from the NFL there. Depth at the at the safety position where I thought for sure Dalkey was going to be gone. I don't know why he resigned, but good that they have the depth there and Canadian depth. And a pretty decent linebacking core with Thurman. Losing Auclair, though, that's a little bit tough because of the Canadian side of that. But Thurman, Rivas, I think that Saskatchewan's big downfall last year was health. They had a lot of injuries, and injuries at big positions. If they can stay healthy, like I can see them taking a step forward, which would be making it to a Grey Cup.
With Jake Mayer, though? Because
not with Jake Mayer, but I think serviceably he could come in if Harris got hurt for the 6 games like he did last year.
He always does.
Right, but he could come in and he could win you 4 of those 6 games. Fine, depending on who you're playing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a far cry upgrade from Shea Patterson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you don't have to get him up to speed, and he also knows Mark Mueller. So there is that with the offensive coordinator side of things too. So I think if Harris is to go down, they have, just like again here in Edmonton, if Ford is to go down, you have a amazing 2024 MVP candidate before he got hurt in Cody Fajardo.
And similar styles.
Similar styles, exactly.
And for Mayer and Fajardo, guys who have a little bit of chips on their shoulders.
Oh yeah.
Because Cody Fajardo was at one point last season probably the favorite for MOP until he got hurt.
He was having a great year.
And now you're a backup in a different city.
Yeah.
And Jake Mayer was this replacement of Bo Levi. The franchise moved on from Bo Levi Mitchell, and now you're released. So you want to go earn your job back. If you get back on that field, go prove you deserve to be a starter in the Canadian Football League.
Yeah.
Whether that team you're with or give them a reason hey, we can go get an asset for you now because this other guy's back healthy. More so Edmonton would be, Fajardo would be traded. You guys, it might be more, wait, we got our franchise quarterback now. And go earn it. And that chip maybe is a big thing.
Random question. Who's the backup in Calgary right now?
It's not Tommy Stevens because we signed
Matt
him.
Schultz moved on.
Schultz went back to... Did he go back to Hamilton or no?
I don't think he signed anywhere.
I thought I saw he went to Ottawa.
Ottawa.
Was it Ottawa?
Ottawa.
I know he went to Ontario.
I don't know who...
Yeah.
And did McLeod sign
Oh,
with
the guy from the NFL.
Yes.
He did.
Who?
Tucker.
That's who it is.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, is it Tucker?
PJ Walker. And they gave him
But he
decent
came
money.
He came in last year and he got lit up by the...
He didn't play.
He came in late.
Late, okay.
Did they
right.
play him? I thought they never played. Yeah, no, they never played him. They signed him really late, but he never played.
I thought he got into a game against the Elks, actually. No?
No, that was the other.
What the heck was his name?
What was his name? I think you did
First
that
ever
game.
start. I did that game.
Yeah.
This was the rematch.
And he got lit up, right?
That's when
game.
Jackson said Trey was starting in Winnipeg right after the game. Remember you texted me?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's...
But
they gave him like a decent signing bonus or something.
Yeah, they wanted. He's gonna get some.
Yeah.
Wow. I shouldn't say he's going to but he's the number 2 for sure.
But this is where you also have to look at teams too, where when you talk about taking steps forward or taking steps back, I want to say every single starting quarterback last year got hurt. Yes. Missed some time.
I think there was only one.
Bo Levi just got benched.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what it was. And he got put back in right away.
But no quarterback started every single game for every team. Okay. So who are the teams that do not have legit backup quarterbacks? Because those are the teams that will probably, because if history is going to repeat itself, there's going to say that somebody, your quarterback at some point is going to get hurt. So who's going to step in to be able to win you some games while that person's hurt?
What does Ottawa have?
Ottawa, I guess now would be Schultz.
And
But Drew Brown's going to get hurt.
Schultz.
they have Crumb Nation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Did they resign him?
I think he resigned. Hamilton has Powell, who they're high on.
Yeah.
Toronto has Arbuckle. Winnipeg, McLeod in Montreal.
Yeah.
Winnipeg's the one that has Chris
Strevler
and now Patterson,
which he
which
signs.
Saskatchewan
But
has Mayer.
who does BC have?
Ooh, good one.
Jake Dolegala?
I'll look that up right away.
No, Bryce. Wasn't it Bryce?
I'll look it up right away. This is the EST Hangout presented by Sentinel Storage, Canada's storage experts. More than 2 decades of helping Canadians through life transitions. 4 weeks free on all units right now. Canadian storage provider, sentinel.ca. CFL free agency talk here. We're 16 minutes away from the start of free agency. I will look that up in a moment. Just a quick heads up on Saturday. We do have the EST Fun Spiel. Had a team that kind of dropped out. Well, if you want to play, or if you have a team of 4 or even a duo, and I could try to pair up another duo, want to play this Saturday, please get in touch with me, Matt at EdmontonSportsTalk.com. So the fun spiel is this Saturday at the Shamrock, gets going at 4 o'clock. So if you can want to play curling or want to see if you want to get in, let me know. Matt at EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Why are you telling him to take his hood off?
Because we're inside.
Okay. BC Lions QB is now what we're looking for. Hernan, Lucas, Matt, and Tommy with you here. Brendan on the other side of the camera.
I think his name is Bryce. He played last year a bit.
It's as soon as I clicked on team, it says page not found. Good job, BC. BC Lions roster. Why do you have a team page if it doesn't open anything?
Come on, Matty Ice. What are you doing out there?
QB. Here we go. Chase Bryce, Nathan Rourke, Garrett Schrader.
Schrader.
I think Bryce will be their number 2. He got in a few snaps last year when they were just sucking.
Yeah.
Like towards the end of the game, he'd come in and.
I really hope there's not a lot of QB injuries. I hope we could be on the verge of the start of a really nice era of quarterbacks in the Canadian Football League. And anytime I feel like that's happening, it kind of something throws a wrench in it. But Davis Alexander looked really good last year.
Mm-hmm.
Chad Kelly is an idiot, but a really good quarterback.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fair assessment.
If Drew Brown could, be what Ottawa expects out of him,
he's good though.
You've
He's
got
just got to stay healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you got Trey
potential.
here in Edmonton.
Rourke.
If Nathan Rourke could get going, and then maybe Jake Mayer is the guy in Saskatchewan. Like,
Maybe not, but
but I'll say, but VA, I don't know how much longer he has.
I think
right?
he's got a couple more years left.
That'd be great then, because like we look at the NFL, and we can talk about the NFL too. The NFL has great years. The NFL has bad years, and when they have bad years, it's because their quarterbacks are getting hurt.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
That's football, and that's the same thing in the Canadian Football League. There are great years in the CFL, and generally their quarterbacks are healthy. And when the quarterbacks get hurt and banged up, it's not the best.
Yeah.
It's
and
crazy.
that's where I want that golden age where we could be like, well, look how old Davis Alexander is, and Trey Ford is, and Nathan Rourke is, and Chad Kelly is, and see if there's a few other guys that could come up there, and we could have starting quarterbacks in this league that are around for a little bit, like we had
True
Ricky
stars.
and Calvillo and Dave Dickinson. It was the
Henry.
end of his career, but then went into Travis Lulay and then Henry Burris, and we had long established starting quarterbacks for quite some time.
Yeah.
What I like in the CFL is smart, like because Powell and Hamilton's going to take over eventually. Like they wanted him to take over last year, and he got hurt on the first play.
It was against Edmonton.
Yeah, Niles Morgan knocked him out. But like, imagine if you're promoting the league, it's Powell, it's Davis, Ford, Rourke, Drew Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Like surround them around those guys that are in their mid-20s, right? The mid-20s to 30s, and build off that. Like when has the CFL ever had 5-6 young quarterbacks that can all really be stars in this league? It's been a long time, man.
When did Ricky come in? Ricky came in 02. Who would it off?
Calvillo, Ricky.
Calvillo, yeah. But that was
Burris
still the
and
era
Burris,
of Damon Allen. That was still the era of like those old farts that were still hanging around.
Yeah.
But
Dave
they were able to have
Dickinson
the
was
old
playing.
farts with the new guys.
Yeah.
And then the new guys became the old farts, and you
That's
could
right.
throw in some of the young. And then it was the Michael Riley, Bo Levi, Zach Colaros.
Yeah.
Because there's what, 4 old
Polaris.
Vernon Adams,
And like, I guess if you want to put, and Mitchell.
and Bo Levi Mitchell.
And like McLeod too, but it'd be a
Yeah.
He's a
backup.
backup.
Now you need these stars to come up, but you need like 2 of them, 3 of them to be strong stars, healthy for a long time. Like Bo was healthy for a long time. He was damn good for a long time.
And he only led
it
the league in
sucked.
passing last year.
He was like the best quarterback stats wise. Halfway through the year, they bench him.
Part of that though is I look at all the guys that got hurt.
Yeah.
This
You
is
can't
wild.
look too much into stats though, right? Like
No, you
you
can't.
still,
The tracking practice thing is insane to me.
Sure,
Like I know
yeah.
there's got to be a reason and a method and a science to it, obviously, but like that is nowhere near game speed and intensity.
Well, it's like he's 88% in practice. I'm like,
So what?
it's practice, man.
There's
Like, what are we
in
doing?
hockey, there's so many great practice players that as soon as the game actually starts and you have to put the systems into play and other guys are trying to take your head off, they become just terrible.
I guess in one way that I could see it is that there is obviously much more practice, like practice reps
point.
to be examined than there is game reps, right?
Yeah.
You play once a week.
There's more
So-
practice than games in football.
Yes.
Yeah,
but
a lot more.
Yeah. So like I guess you need to take some of it into consideration, but you can't use it all.
You can
for
chart
everything.
it, but you can't build
You can't
their
build
whole-
right. You can't use
Yeah.
Or
Or
else
you
you
guys
take
sharpen
the red
practice.
jersey off a quarterback and let him like game speed and
Yeah.
let him get hit. Because you can do whatever you want when you know you're not going to get hit.
Exactly.
We have a question. Dolo Gala, is he under contract with the Bombers?
No.
I don't
He's a
think
free
so.
agent. He bounced like last year. I remember when he started that game here for BC, and they're like, "Could he be a
But
quarterback?" in the future?
another-
And he lasted at half.
Another guy, though.
horrible.
Another guy, you know, when you look at him on paper, you know,
Yeah.
tall, good arm. He can use his legs, but just, yeah.
He was
Unless they-
good in
un-
Sask.
He came in. He was better than Mason Fine.
That one game where I think it was him against Trey Ford 2023, they both went back and
Yeah.
forth, punch for punch.
He could do it. He couldn't do it consistently and
Yeah.
he couldn't do it often, but like he had the ability. And this is too where it's like,
He is under contract in Winnipeg.
is he?
Yeah, he's still under contract.
It's just, you wonder like though, like how quick they give up on somebody too. Like these guys have never played the Canadian game their whole life. And then they come up here and then they have to learn it and they have to figure out the waggle and figure out the field size and the
Yeah.
extra player and all this kind of stuff. And then they get in for, 2 halves of football and then they get cut because they throw a couple interceptions. So you kind of also wonder with some of these players, like if they're given, and problem with the CFL is that you don't have that time to develop people. Like
True.
it's a, you can be the worst team in the league one year and then free agency comes and you become, who you are or whatever, right?
It's so turn and burn sometimes.
Yeah. So you kind of wonder with some of these guys, like if given the opportunity, given the chance, given the time, what they would have been able to come up with. But that's also like, if you have the ability to stay behind a healthy veteran quarterback, you can learn and hopefully become something.
That's tough though, because you make a good point. Like you have one bad game, that can be your career.
Yeah. It's over.
In the CFL.
Yeah.
You hungry, buddy?
You got something.
Well, like it's like
But
Alexander,
my
right?
stomach-
Like how many years has he been in Montreal?
3.
3.
Yeah.
So he's back. He's been back there behind guys, like watching, learning. He hasn't had to been thrown into game action right away. Where and when he finally did get into game action, like
He was ready.
he was ready. He almost like I think when he came in against Saskatchewan, like we had him like dead to right at one point, and he got away, and then after that it was just, but take the sack or take the interception. What could have changed, right? So
I talked to Jason Moss about him actually because, Mosser is on Bozone Live, one of the hunters, and he co-hosted with me one day. And I was asking about Davis Alexander. I'm like, what's the deal with this guy? He's like, well, I've had him in the system for a couple of years, puts in the work, knows, the game's kind of suited towards him. He's not the biggest guy, but he's quick, he's smart, and can get the ball out to his guys in an efficient manner. He's like, yeah, he just slid right in. And it was a seamless transition. He goes, there's a lot there with him. And man, he was talking up Davis Alexander. And I'm sitting there going, I'm like, isn't that like what Trey Ford is? But Jason just glowed about Alexander.
He's a good quarterback, man. And before he came in last year, I guarantee you, most of us didn't know who the hell he was.
Yeah, no
I had
clue.
to
So
look
that,
him up.
BC, who's that guy in there?
Bryce.
Bryce Pierce, whatever his name
But
is. Yeah, he could be the next Davis Alexander.
Let's go back to Ricky Ray for here. Like,
Yeah.
had no clue who this guy was. I remember I was like, what do we like? Jason Moss is hurt. This
You
is
were
awful.
a big Bart Hendricks guy at that time.
No,
wasn't?
but it was. I was sad at like Jason Moss is hurt and like what is going on. I remember I was in BC at family. I don't know if it was a family. It might have been a family reunion or something like that. And I was up to watch BC Edmonton that night because I'm like, God, this is not going to go well. BC's going to own us. And Ricky Ray was here. It was. It takes off, and then it's his career. That's the beauty of the CFL. Like back to the Elks with the receiving core. There's going to be a press release between now and the start of training camp, which will feature a wide receiver that will likely start for the Edmonton Elks this season.
Yeah.
Sure.
We won't know it at the time.
Keyshawn Johnson last year for the Riders.
We
all of a
won't.
sudden,
We won't know
Cardinal.
it. All of a sudden, through training camp, he's going to be great, and then he's going to be, or he'll be on the practice roster, and there'll be an injury, and this guy will get elevated, and he's going to be a receiver, and they're starting it. We're going to go, where did this guy come from?
He'll play 1 year and he'll be back down.
Well, look at the Elks.
Or it'll be
You know,
like
like that.
Darrell Walker, because he was the other one, which all of a sudden, it's the start of your career. It's like Dalton Schoen. Where did Dalton Schoen come from? All of a sudden, Winnipeg a couple years ago is this guy that's lighting up this league, and you're like, who the hell's Dalton Schoen, and why is he winning Lucas's another CFL Fantasy Championship?
Yeah.
To Cheeky Pegger in the Nasty Chat, is there a max number of QBs you can have heading into training camp? I don't believe there's a max number. The Elks came in with 9 1 year.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We brought in everyone.
You're best friends
Bring
with all
them
of them,
all
weren't
in.
you?
Malik Henry from
Yes.
to the show.
That's why I say bring everyone in. Let them fight it out.
Yeah.
Sign
You will
everybody.
have a decent
Cardell
amount.
Jones.
Cardell Jones.
You will usually bring in quite a bit to share the reps and to get through the early days.
Well, it's rookie camp.
And you don't want your quarterbacks taking up everything that are going into the year. So
Yeah, you
you'll
can bring
probably
this
go
one.
with what, 5, 6, 7?
I think they'll have because for rookie camp they want at least 4. So I think they're gonna sign a bunch here. Just bring him in.
And that's all teams. Like
Did Kai Loxley, did I hear his name pop up again recently?
He signed in
heard
the
you.
UFL.
that's
You
where
said
it
he
was.
trash talking a little bit too. Did I hear that?
Yeah, he was like, I'm back. Because
Oh.
last year no one would pick him up.
Yeah.
I'm back.
Yeah,
And
because
then,
you
like,
quit
you
on a
were-
team.
quit- and then
You
he would-
literally
he would
quit on a
never
football
there.
team.
He would like chirp a guy in the CFL and be like, "Man, I got better numbers than this guy. Like, how am I not signed yet?" And
By quitting on
averages?
your team
Yeah.
mid-game.
That's the one thing you can't do.
Yeah.
I
Like
can have great averages too. If I,
you could
completed
disagree
one
with the
for one
decision
for
or
100.
whatever. But
Sure.
Yeah.
the moment you quit on your team,
Yeah. I remember
what
he
locker room
texted
can you
me.
go into after that?
yeah,
He texted me in the game and you're like, he's never playing here again. I'm like, what? He was just in that past series. He's like, yeah, he said he's done.
yeah, he wouldn't go in, man. He just stood there.
Why? What
Because that was the
Because
short
he-
yardage.
He went in
Yeah.
for Taylor,
Yeah.
fumbled on the first play, and then they took him on. They went with Daggy. So he got upset that he didn't get.
What a-
Which I understand that you're pissed because you got one play.
But again,
Yeah.
going back to the thing where it's like, you
Make it count.
throw one interception, your career's done, right?
Yeah,
Well,
like-
but you know,
Wasn't that also the game where he didn't get the
That was the
from
first
goal
game.
line? Goal line? Oh, so there was 2 different games?
Yeah.
That was against Sask, right? Yeah. He had
The 3 goal lines, and then we couldn't punch it in, and
Yeah.
kind of led to the
It destroyed the
0-9.
team for the season.
You're
mentally.
right, because you needed that first win, especially the way last season went, and then you lose.
And he was promoted
and you
as
think
Victor Cui was that was
Yeah.
the start of guaranteed win
Guaranteed
tickets,
win
all of
ticket.
that.
And you look at
great
like
attendance. Waylon the Wolf was playing.
yeah.
We were walking out to the stadium after our scooter ride, my brother and I, and you were doing the Kavis Reed pump up song, and my brother's like, "What is this?" I'm like, "The greatest
Yeah.
song ever."
Shoot, eh?
Yeah,
But no, you start thinking about like so there was that game where stopped on the goal line 3 times. There was the game in Sask where he took the knee
It was
in the
9-point
end zone.
play.
There is the,
touchdown, and then
and then was it last year? Was it in BC when they took the stupid penalty at the end? And
they had a bunch of penalties in that BC game.
I know
It
what
just
you're talking about.
crushed their
Niles Morgan
momentum.
took a penalty.
yeah.
and then that cost
Roughing
them the
the
game.
passer.
Basically, there was the one with Boris Beatty and kicking it up. But like, how many games were lost due to just absolute?
We should have.
You know.
We should beat Sask last year in the first game. We were up big.
Should have, yeah.
Yeah,
We should've-
I jinxed that one. As Jay and I went to the game, and they were going to drive
I don't know
back to
how
Century
much fumbles
Casino,
that.
and it was like we left after 3, and then I told him the Elks got this in the bag. Like they're not blowing this.
We should have beat Ottawa
They
here.
blew it.
They
We
blew
should have
it.
beat Montreal. If Boris Beatty doesn't miss
Could
a
have
field goal.
beat. Could you have beat Winnipeg too?
Yeah, that was
I think I remember that one.
in Edmonton. If Trey doesn't make the stupid pass where he tried putting it over his offensive line,
Yeah.
like drop one in, the Elks were at midfield at that point, tied, I think. The Elks were going
Yeah.
to score points on that drive.
Right.
And they were going to take a lead, and they were likely going to go beat Winnipeg in that one. That was one game where I was hard on Trey after, and I got ripped for it. And it was like, no, you have to be hard on
Why?
this guy.
Yeah.
Like he had 3 turnovers in that game. Like, I'm sorry, you got to be criticized for that.
Going back to
But
that,
that was you're right. They should have had that one too.
going back to that game in 2023 when Sims took the knee, and I'd never heard a sideline mother F so much on that play. Like, because at that point we needed a win.
Because I was at your place. It was me, you, and Eric, and we
We
watched
needed
it
a
on
win.
delay.
I could not believe that. Yeah.
I was like blown away. And then if you hear the broadcast, like,
Did you know what happened prior?
No, you got a text on your watch from someone saying, "Did you see the end of the game?" Because you made a reference. I'm like, well, something's gonna happen at the end. They didn't blow it, but you're like, whenever you get that text,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
you're like,
yeah.
So we're sitting there, and you and Eric were mad all game because the Riders were
no, they
trash
couldn't do
all
anything.
game.
That was one of the
awful all
worst
game.
football games I've
They
ever
were-
watched
and
in my
then
entire life.
the guy gave up the point, and you and Eric didn't even really celebrate much. You guys were just like, awesome, like
Yeah.
we stole a victory tonight.
It was the perfect ending to the worst game. Like,
I was
And
yelling. I was yelling at the dude. What are you doing? Get it out!
I just remember the call. Dave Campbell's like, "You gotta get it out, CJ. Like, this is live." And then when he takes the knee, all you hear is Morley Dave go, "Oh." It was one of the best calls because you can feel the pain, and they're like, "What do you do? Like, get it, run it out."
And having that done on the road too, like now you have to go home. Like if there'd be different if that happened at home, you just get your clothes on, take the bus or whatever.
You
but-
still got to fly.
Oh god, yeah, that'd be the worst.
The funniest thing is, I still don't think CJ after the game kind of knew what happened.
Understood.
Well,
Yeah,
didn't Jones they had a shot of him on the sideline saying something to him, like pretty animated. But how?
Because I went to get him in the room for media because media want to talk to him.
Well,
obviously.
yeah.
And I said, just be very, like we had to like protect him a bit, right?
Yeah.
'Cause and then he was like fine though. He's like, yeah, I'm good. And I was just like, I don't think he really understood what had happened.
See,
You
and that's-
lost the game.
That's, and I still want to. Did the
We lost
special
because of you.
did the special teams coach tell him prior, or
You cannot
if not-
cannot be a returner in.
But that was
in the
early.
Canadian.
It was week 5.
Don't
Yeah,
it was.
I-
You
come
can,
on.
regardless,
the
if you're
special teams
going
coordinator
in,
needs to be like, make sure
Yes,
you do not.
you
take it down.
cannot.
So that's where also like I understand if he wasn't told that, I also go to the special teams coordinator and go, geez, why didn't you say anything?
Yeah.
It is 10:00.
Oh boy.
Free agency is now open in the
Ding,
Canadian
ding, ding,
football.
ding,
League.
ding,
I'm
Smash
scrolling,
that
I'm
tampering
scrolling.
window. It's all done. Players can sign now wherever they want. Over under 15 minutes for Ed Hervey to announce the Elks to announce Ed Hervey's first signing.
Oh,
What was
under.
that? Sorry.
I'm gonna set up 15 minutes. Over or under.
Under.
The Elks have celebrated free agency by announcing 50% off 2024 home and away jerseys.
Sweet.
So is that
I'm gonna
the
have to get
first
to it.
signing?
No,
It might be my first.
They are
signing.
announcing. You got everyone go buy your jerseys now.
50% off 2024 home and away. Those are nice ones.
Well, that
Offer
means
ends Feb 21.
that means
Get a little bit
the
of
new
time.
look will be different. Obviously, the yellow numbers returning.
Nice.
Oh, or gold, I should
It's
say.
gonna be a fun season. Who the Riders open up with?
They're the league opener on the Thursday. I think it's against Ottawa. Let's have a look. See.
This is the EST Hangout presented by Sentinel Storage, Canada's storage experts, more than 2 decades of helping Canadians
it's gonna
through
be
life's
fun, yeah.
transitions. Check them out, sentinel.ca, to find a location nearest you. This is the Hangouts as we have CFL free agency special underway. Tommy, Matt, Lucas, Hernan with you here on your clear choice for Edmonton Sports. Edmonton Sports Talk on TuneIn, iHeartRadio, EdmontonSportsTalk.com, on YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. We will keep an eye on what's happening in the Canadian Football League. The Edmonton Elks, you can throw up that graphic again there, Brendan, of what we're expecting for them to announce over the next couple of days. For those on YouTube, you can see it. For everyone else listening, it's David Beard. What do we got? Jared Brinkman. Thank you. Jake Seresna, Terrell Ford, Cody Grace, Keon Julian Grant, Gregor McKellar, Royce Mechie, Tyson Middlemost, Emmanuel Rugamba, Robbie Smith, and Kobe Williams. There's so much to remember with the Elks that can't just memorize it.
Hey,
And
nice graphic. I know I saw it
Thank you.
earlier. Who put that one together? You?
I just built it quickly
Very
yesterday.
nice.
You're very talented, Matthew.
Yeah.
Oh, I appreciate that. And then if you could just throw up the CFL, what we're expecting, Eugene Lewis, Nafis Lyon, who used to be in Edmonton. I always really liked him.
Nafis was awesome.
Adelke going to Ottawa. You got Lawler and Stubblefield to Hamilton. You got Rhymes, Jones, Webb to Calgary, Bratton to Toronto, Cobb to Winnipeg. The bigger names that aren't signed anywhere. Kadeem Carey, Alex Hollins. So we'll see what happens over the next little bit.
Is Big Hill
CFL free
done?
agency just opening.
He does. I
forgot about
I think
Big Hill.
he's
got
obviously
released.
done it with
Yes.
Winnipeg,
Yeah.
but I don't think he wants to be done. His little presser that he had, it sounded like he still wanted to play, but
And I saw there's an article, I think it was a couple days ago, about him. I think Suits was on somewhere and said that maybe Big Hill isn't an every down player anymore. But he's what, 34, 35 now?
Banged up in free
Injuries,
agency
though,
quite a bit.
Yeah.
Does that mean they're going to roll with Tony Jones, a middle linebacker?
Winnipeg.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because he took over for him last year when he got hurt.
Who cares?
You hate the Bombers.
Oh, you hate
the
him.
Bombers. I can't. They used to be the lovable little, because they get
They
destroyed.
never won.
Yeah. And now it's just
Well, it's gonna be fascinating watching Winnipeg this year too, because it's the swan song for this group of Bombers.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the Bombers turn into moving forward. At some point they're gonna have to move on from Claros. There's gonna be that old line is, they've lost some players, but they're also getting older. The defense, we're now starting to see the changes coming to it. But this is the home Grey Cup. This is their final. If they weren't hosting the Grey Cup, I would think we would have saw a few more changes for the
You think
Winnipeg
so?
Blue Bombers. But they're going in for this one. And are they going to be able to get it done? Are they going to be able to get to that?
It's funny though when you say that they are going in for it, then you would have thought that they would have found a way to keep Lawler.
Well, I think they tried to. The money, like I think they were one of the teams that are pissed about the salary cap thing.
Well, they can still go back.
They
It's
could
not
try.
like
That's a lot of money.
Lawler would
though,
have
man.
to then renege on his word, and players might not want to do that.
I don't think. Yeah, and
he's so he's
Winnipeg
such a-
won't pay him that much. $275, man.
I think where
Well,
they're
not
all,
with the
I
extended
guess.
cap.
I think where they're all in type thing. It's the fact that you're bringing back Zach Collaros. There were points last season where Winnipeg fans were calling for him to maybe be done
But
and stuff.
to
And
what?
like, absolutely. But
You
it's
know?
time to like. Could you have gone out and tried to have got a VA, or could you have done different things? If it's time to make that transition, but it's a home Grey Cup. Maybe take that step back for a year or two to retool completely.
Thing about Claros though, like although he was hurt last year, like he's still putting up 5 touchdown games. Like which he did last year. I wanted to pick him up because I think it was actually in our freaking final. I was gonna pick him up. And
I
he
dropped
threw-
him finally.
Yeah. But like he can still go out there and he can still
Definitely
do the job, right?
But there's also a lot of games right now where he's not throwing the touchdowns. Or was throwing it.
Oh, I know.
What through first half of the season last year? What did he not have more picks than TDs thrown?
Yeah.
Yep.
What were they? 0-5? No.
Yeah.
What was their start? Yeah, they were brutal to start last
We were
year.
Was it
right there
0-5
with
or
him.
0-3? 0-4. What was it?
They
were pretty
yeah,
bad.
you could be
1-4?
right.
Elks made the coaching change at 0-5. That's why 0-5 sticks out in my mind.
Yeah, after the
I don't know.
Ottawa-
I'd find it hard as a team to walk away from a Zach Claros at this point, though. Just
He's-
to drop him and go with like VA.
I think it's retirement though.
yeah, like he's got to end it. They can't.
But I think, like, I wonder if they're not hosting the Grey Cup this year. If
If he would have
Collaros
retired.
looks at it and goes, I'm ready. I've done a lot. If this Grey Cup was in Calgary this year, like, do you need to go for one more hurrah
Yeah,
type
good
thing?
point.
they can't be the Grey Cup, can they?
They absolutely
I
can.
Hope not.
Like that's the I will say
Oh,
they absolutely
God.
can because I
No, I know, but
One last run.
But the two teams that I think challenge them the most this year now is
The
going to be
banjo
Edmonton and
picking
Saskatchewan.
hillbillies.
I think I'm not high on BC going into this season.
Nope.
that's a yeah,
And Calgary,
You guys really think Rourke's going to struggle again?
it's not
Could.
right. It's the defense.
Oh, okay.
I honestly
stand
think
by
though,
the
like he could
defense.
though,
yeah. There's
because he.
So they're losing like 40-30 every game, basically,
Why?
potentially in BC.
Yeah, went into the last season thinking their defense was going to be strong because the year prior it was strong and they didn't get it done. And Ryan Phillips got demoted and Mike Benavides is the new defensive coordinator.
yeah.
The one thing about Mike Benavides, he likes a bend don't break defense.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to give up yards. They just try not to give up the touchdowns.
Right.
They got a good old line,
I don't know, but then
Last year they
defensively,
didn't.
losing a couple players.
and they don't have I don't think they have as strong as a running back as they did last year.
No, 'cause they brought back Butler,
They got
right?
a smaller
Yeah.
Butler who, at least with
Stand back.
Standback, he big body and he could run his way through. So
And that's
I don't know,
another
man.
team that doesn't run a lot.
Bombers 0-4 last year.
0-4. Okay.
0-4 last year. But that's
but that
where
was the Simic, right? Like
that's my concern with BC is just right off the bat. I don't know if they have the defense to step up like some of the other teams have. And so that's where the step back I could see.
and Nathan Rourke did struggle when he came back.
Yeah.
Like
You can even see his movement was
Yeah.
like he's still NFL calibrated, and then he's readjusting. Yeah, yeah.
He had some. He obviously he had good games too. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't just all like dog crap, but like
I just loved all the some media, all the excuses for him. Well, he had 3 NFL playbooks. Like, so
yeah. So,
So what?
what does that have to do with him learning the BC one?
Yeah.
And again, it wasn't all on him. His
No.
line was terrible. They didn't run the ball.
So what have they done?
BC.
BC they got
Three Down Nation has a good
They got Auclair.
like.
Well, Claire's a good one.
Well, Three Down Nation had a good like.
Yeah.
This is where every
They-
team is at. And I
Guinness
want to
is
see if I can
legit.
find what they
There's
have.
no.
Yeah,
I-
they
Each
brought in
team's
Lenny.
additions,
Yeah.
subtractions. So the
saw
BC Lions, they've acquired Dijon Allen, offensive lineman, James Butler, running back, Trey Crawford, defensive lineman, Dwayne Hendricks, defensive lineman, Braden Lennius, agreed to terms with Adam Auclair, linebacker, Dante Williams,
Both from
defensive back.
Saskatchewan.
Were they from Saskatchewan? They're losing Antwi, Archibald, or they're signing elsewhere. Green, Hollins, Ragumba, Stambeck, and Varga. Varga was always pretty good.
Where'd Varga go? I think he went down.
Varga.
No signings yet.
Nada.
That's crazy.
Come on, or Curry.
Winnipeg also got Reggie White too. They're agreed to terms with Reggie White. He's a sneaky good receiver too. There.
So Hamilton has Tim White and Kenny Lawler at hefty prices,
Mhm.
and they got that.
And they got the Canadian kid. What's his face? They re-signed him.
I know who you're thinking of.
McCord had him.
I know exactly who you're thinking of.
Canadian kid.
Yeah.
There was a
85?
There was rumblings he'd come here. Well,
Smith.
not.
Yeah.
Keandre Smith.
Yeah.
Keandre Smith.
And then they have a guy with the big dreads too, Bridges.
Bridges.
Yeah.
Rookie.
Oh yeah,
Rookie of the
Shamir
Year
Bridges.
nominee.
He started off really well last year.
Yeah.
Faded a little bit.
So not bad. They also brought in. They're agreed to terms with Stubblefield, Sean Amos, and Dobson. But they lost. They lost Beard, Butler. Not too bad for them. And they brought in Drew Wojciechowski too, the Canadian.
The Argos have 16 guys released or agreed to terms elsewhere.
But same thing last year.
I know. It's just Varga. It went to Toronto though.
Oh, okay.
They did bring in Varga, and they brought in Cameron Judge and Donald.
And the re-signing of McInnes.
Rutledge.
Is nice too.
Now, I know they're winning. The Argos are winning and all that, and they have BMO Field figured out, and they are owned by MLSE. But just like you hear stories from some guys, and they're just like, not a good vibe there. Not a good vibe.
In which
respect,
just
like within the
how they're
organization,
treated.
sure.
You know,
that's John Murphy.
Yeah.
Right. And then, so that's why when, you were chuckling when you're like, they had 16 guys who walked away and agreed to terms elsewhere. Like, yeah, it's funny, but it also made me think of that. It's like, maybe they win, they're in Toronto, all that stuff, but the fact that it's not a good vibe around the organization is why these guys are willing to move on. And then on top of that, like John Murphy's turn and burn.
He doesn't pay.
Right.
He doesn't pay.
You're screwed.
Like you just go. I'll go to the running back situation. Back-to-back years, AJ Ouellette became the star running back. They went, that's okay. Go somewhere else. We won't give you the money. They bring in Kadeem Carey on less money. He has a great season. Helps lead them to a Grey Cup. Have fun wherever you're going. We'll bring in Kevin Brown.
Yeah.
They go find different guys. John Murphy just is confident in himself that, yeah, you want to go get paid? Go get paid somewhere else. We'll bring in someone younger and cheaper.
He's got a formula that works.
Mhm.
It's pretty harsh.
He was with Huff in Calgary for a long time. Went to Saskatchewan with Chris Jones.
And
then
Calgary would find guys too when he
Always.
was there.
always. Like that's just the one thing is that
here?
you've got. It's
Oh my.
Hey, it's Dave Jameson. Well, on CFL Free Agency Day. What is this?
It's the holiest day.
Yeah.
It's
On the
it's a
sports calendar.
CFL Free Agency miracle.
Greetings.
Oh, how are you?
Blank check, Ed Hervey.
6
Says,
mil.
Blank check. Just keep signing them. Don't be leaving in the next
don't
40
leave.
minutes.
Does Dave want in?
Oh, I don't know why.
He can
he's
sit
here.
on my lap.
Wow, what a miracle.
Yeah.
He just
Toronto
popped in.
also lost. I forgot they. Polk, I think, went for a trial with the NFL too, so he's gone.
Yeah.
He was a good receiver last
Same
year.
with that. Is it Ontario Wilson?
Yeah, Wilson
Yeah.
from
I was surprised by that
Winnipeg.
one a little bit. Montreal is the one. They don't do a lot. They're very quiet this free agency.
Who did they lose?
They've lost a Fajardo, offensive lineman Gagnon,
Yeah,
Julian
he
Grant, Lyons, Stubblefield, White Jr. They're bringing in Archibald, defensive lineman, Hogan Sadin. They've also brought in MBT and Trayvon Mason. Not sure of some of those guys. Very quiet. Like not losing players,
Yeah.
but not really gaining players at the same time. Like Stubblefield will be a loss for them, no
For sure.
question. I don't think Reggie White's a big loss for them, nor is Julian Grant. Like they
I think
Austin Mack's back.
yes.
They're going to get a full year of Austin Mack.
if he can stay healthy. That's
But that was just last year an injury thing, right?
But he
wasn't
so he
injured the
left and
first
then
year.
he came back and then he got hurt. But then also Phil Puck got hurt. So
Yes.
like again, what I think with the Reggie White loss is your depth.
The
again.
depth part of
but
that.
yeah, but with receivers, like you said, there'll be a press release that they signed this guy and you won't care anything about him until he
Well,
gets
maybe
into
that's
play.
where
And
Hollins
he's your
goes.
next Sneed or whatever, right? Ottawa's always pretty active at this time too. They brought in Adeleke, Peter Godberg, Mari Henderson, Eugene Lewis, Priester, Schiltz. So yeah, they brought in some decent guys. William Stanback as well.
The thing I like about for Ottawa and Edmonton, like back to we were talking earlier about winning for agency, it hurts.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't like they were bare bottom of the barrel teams.
Yeah.
And they're just trying to fill out their roster and they're just spending. They had like Ottawa last year was a playoff team. At times looked pretty good. So now they're supplementing their team.
Yeah.
And they were able to, they had some pieces there. So they're keeping those pieces, but they're trying to add to those. And same with Edmonton. Edmonton had some pieces and they still have some pieces. Like now's Morgan back with Nick Anderson. You're adding a Rugamba to that linebacking core. Okay, that there's your addition that you're kind of adding to bolster what you have. It's not like it's just a waste baron. And you're just, we're going to spend here, just bring in the biggest names and hopefully it works. You're now just trying to address needs.
Yeah.
And hopefully that's enough to take you. And for the Elks, we talked with Boris Beatty. It's 2 games, Boris Beatty. I will go to cost them really. And that's playoffs.
I think it was maybe even 3.
Yeah. But 2 is playoffs. 2 is playoffs. If they're tied with the BC Lions, they piece the BC Lions. And you could, there's an Ottawa Montreal. Like it could be 3. But we could just say that if just 2 of them go the Elks way, they are all of a sudden a playoff team last
Crazy.
season.
Where and who do they have now for a kicker? Or do they have no one yet?
Vincent
Blanchard.
Okay.
They drafted him, but I don't know if he's the guy.
Yeah.
Because it's a new regime here, right? And then they signed Cody Grace for fun.
Because like we were joking earlier about the long snapper thing and this guy
Mike
signed
Benson
right.
signing,
But like, it's when you don't have a long snapper, it's you can really you don't notice him, but when you don't have one, you really notice it.
True.
Same thing with a kicker,
100%.
right? Like,
But I'd rather go with a younger drafted kicker as opposed to giving,
and a Canadian
150K to Boris Beatty.
Yeah.
Who
for sure I would 100%.
It's like, okay, I could go minimum, give this guy a shot, but then I get another player or I have this extra cash to go bolster my O-line or receiving core that maybe instead of having to settle for 3, we're getting touchdowns.
Yeah.
That's where it hurt, is because Boris Beatty just wasn't.
And they should be able to. Like,
and when it's a veteran, you expect
with Herbie being in Hamilton, they haven't been too consistent with their kickers, but they always seem to find someone that can kick the ball through the
you should
uprights,
always
right?
be able to find some kicker at some point. There's enough guys down south kicking on a regular basis in college. You should be able to grab one.
Somebody, Fresno State or something like that, right?
And they get a kick off a team.
It's always Dean Faithful, buddy.
No.
I understand the likability of him and everything in the Queen's way, but man, I don't know. I would.
He got into a game last year, rightfully so, and he went 1 for 2. He missed the kick still,
and he almost missed the
extra point.
Next point.
Yeah.
Like that's where it's hard. Like and the age hurts him. It's always going to hurt him because he's now going to be 37 next year.
And when you like can't be confident that he's going to hit like a 45-yard or something like that. And nowadays, like that should be just that's
automatic.
It's automatic.
I hit a 70-yarder yesterday in tackle.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Holy.
It was the dumbest thing. This game's from 93. No, do not give him clap or clicks. He didn't deserve that one.
You're so mad.
This game
must have been.
He's well beyond midfield and he's drilling it right down the middle.
That's my
a
guy.
perfect shot.
That's
but
good,
who's
good.
leading right now?
Oh, yeah, you are.
Yeah, that's right. Portions of
matter.
this hour of the EST
Doesn't
Hangout, they're brought to you by the High Product
Little
Marketing, official merch partner of Edmonton Sports Talk, promotional products that bring the buzz. Check them out, thehighproductmarketing.com. Ooh, that was bad.
No one wants to be
the
first.
Hive, also the official merch partner of Whale and the Wolf. That was bad.
That was worse.
So check them out, thehighproductmarketing.com. Chelsea does some amazing work there. She did some amazing work with all the merch that we have. We've got a nice little gift for all the curlers on Saturday.
Yes.
That's something to say. The toques for everyone that she got done. So
Murray B from Golf Town, our buddy Murray B, said maybe we could put something together for him. Some leftover stuff, like the head cover. Remember you got some?
Oh, yeah, we could talk about that after, I guess.
Sorry, I'm bringing it up because he literally just texted me.
So check them out, thehighproductmarketing.com. It is CFL free agency. We're now waiting for the moves to happen.
We're waiting.
We're waiting for something. Oh,
Anything?
the Bombers have officially announced that they've signed Gavin Cobb. 27-year-old played a season at the University of Manitoba.
Going
He
home.
signed, I think that one's in behind my head. I think is Gavin Cobb. friend of the show.
Yeah.
So
Nice
friend of the Hangout, great guy.
Two-time
I know
guest.
He wanted to come back to Edmonton, but
But
I
I have to
also
have him back for the hangout. Fly him in.
the next
That's
one with our EST budget.
Yeah, why not? You guys breaking TVs.
He's
and,
a good
PJ.
player for a small guy, man.
Sure.
Like he is.
and Canadian too.
Yeah.
Like, dude, can never have too many of
We
them.
talked about the West. Let's go to the East quickly. Is your thoughts of how the East could stack up changed over what we've seen the last week and expecting to see today?
Good question, Matthew.
I think the East is going to be a lot more, which they were. I think when we always think about the East, we always think of them as like the pushovers. But the East did pretty good against the West
Last year, there was a threat of them
Yeah.
getting their first ever crossover to the West. There was a threat of that for. A
I
period
think
of time.
they're going to be. I think it's going to be a lot tighter. I don't think there's going to be that runaway team. I
No.
think they'll beat the crap out of each other, which is great. And I think they're all going to be competitive. I think the West will be. It'll be three. It'll be three on each, obvious. But I think the West will be. There will be a lot more parity between the tops and the bottoms.
Yeah, because if you look at the East, I look at the quarterback position. They all have solid quarterbacks. They've all made solid additions.
Yep.
So I'm kind of with you. I think it's going to be like each team's going to be like that 2-game over 500 or right at 500, and it's going to be a battle.
Especially when
Yeah.
it comes down to that the later months where it's going to be like now you're actually fighting for the season series and home playoffs and stuff like that. Like I as long as everyone stays healthy too with that, right? Like again, health is a big.
Where in the
big
West, I can
factor.
see 2 teams struggling and 3 kind of taking off. Similar.
Who are
to-
the two teams that for them
BC
struggling?
Calgary.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I could say, and we talked about this.
I don't know,
briefly.
man. That's-
I'll say this: I could see the Elks getting off to a slow start looking at that schedule.
sure.
I could see them dropping to 0-2, 0-3.
New
to start
coaching
this
staff.
What's your
Staff.
schedule? What's your schedule?
It's
It's-
bye week.
Everyone's
2.
saying so, but you play
sucks.
BC first in
In
BC.
BC, that's a
Then
tough one.
Montreal.
That is always
I don't
a tough
think
game.
so. I think they go in there and they
Sure, but
and they
historically,
put it-
you know the history of when those late
Yeah,
games in BC.
yeah, I know.
So they go. Oh, I'm going to the wrong schedule here. Then they get a bye week. Then Montreal home, and then they go to Winnipeg. And that
I think that's 2-1. I think they can beat BC and they can beat Montreal.
They gave Montreal a good run last year.
I'm always worried about going to Winnipeg, and I don't know last time they won a game at Winnipeg.
Yeah, Winnipeg's tough place.
And there is
5 years
in
ago,
BC.
6 years
It's
ago.
an 8:00 start Edmonton time. Like it's that late Saturday game, and that's one where it's like,
Yeah,
but
but
then
again-
it's opens up for them a little bit. But I could see a stumble out of the gate for this franchise. They desperately need to win one of those first
It's-
two, I believe. But I could see a stumble.
I know. I understand that it's a late game. It's an 8:00 Edmonton start. It's still a 7:00 BC start. It's only an hour difference. Not like we're going from
it's gonna be like
Halifax to-
7:22
That's
because there'll
okay.
be some sort of
But
concert.
it's also both their
Just throwing
first.
that out.
It's also
There will be, you know it.
also
You know
gonna
they're
be-
going to announce some concert and they're going to get the push the game start.
It's
Nelly
also going to be
Furtado.
their both teams' first game.
Yes.
Kendrick.
And is then at that point is BC a better team than Edmonton is?
But it's I just there is that struggles of always heading to the West Coast.
But I don't think
And
I don't think
I'm
like
not
a
saying
home
it's-
field advantage is going to play
And they
into
got their
things.
butt kicks in BC the last 3 years. man.
And also there will be
different though.
Yeah.
if
Different
there is that
teams.
concert
Completely different
series,
teams.
there will be a bigger crowd.
Yeah.
They get that big home crowd to start. It's
I
going to
don't-
be a fascinating
I don't
first
think
game though
BC's
because you've got 2 rookie head coaches
Yeah.
going at it and Killam going up against Buck Pierce. You got 2 Canadian quarterbacks going at it and Trey Ford versus Nathan Rourke. The storylines
It's a
behind
big
it
game.
are pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I don't think BC's defense can handle like a 3-headed running back monster.
Sure.
I honestly just looking at it today. Obviously, things can change going forward and getting closer to the game, but I don't see it as such like a daunting task going into BC. Not this year. Like you said before, you got their butts kicked there, but this is different now. This is a different team.
Like you almost went there knowing you were going to. It was just like by how much.
They got shut out there a couple years ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 shutouts in the 1 year against
Yeah.
BC. It was awful.
And then in 2022, Rourke, I think he put up 50 at halftime in both games in BC.
But
But this
was
was
bad.
those
yeah.
shutout games. Those shutout games were with VA.
yeah.
They were with a healthy Hatcher and a Hollins and
Yeah.
and then who was starting quarterback for you guys at that point? Was it
Cornelius.
Cornelius, yeah.
So
Nick Arbuckle's one of them.
Ugh.
there you go. So let's things are different.
Absolutely, but at the same time, we might be underestimating the BC Lions, and they may come out and show that like this is
we
Nathan
could be
Rourke.
overestimating the Elks for sure.
And that's where
Okay.
it's one the first weirdness happens in week 1.
Yep.
Weird stuff happens in week 1 of all sports in those first games. So that's where I'll have the concern of I
But
don't know
it
what
happens to both teams though too.
absolutely, and that's where I don't know how week 1 plays out. So if that goes to a loss, I could see the potential of a stumble then for the rest of the way for the Elks of okay, you now get Montreal coming to town, and then you have to go to. I wouldn't be worried if Winnipeg was coming to town.
Right.
It's having to get to Winnipeg.
Yeah.
It's just those first
I
three
think
games I
Winnipeg's a
don't
loss.
think is easy road.
Yeah.
Like, and so that's where it's like if they can get past week 1, it gives them a little breathing room going into their next 2. If they don't, then it's like okay, you got to go get that Montreal game.
Yes.
You have to go get that Montreal game, which they could still go do. They've played Montreal close
Mhm.
the last couple of years themselves.
Signings that are now official, courtesy of Farhan Lalji, Herji Mayala, Darius Bratton, and Celestine Haba to the Argos. Which
Sean Murphy making moves.
I like Herji.
I like
Yeah, I
that.
heard
Gene.
he's good.
Darius is
and
good.
there's your
Yeah.
Canadian as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, not bad.
It now starts. The flurry will begin right away here. We're expecting, what I'll say is we're expecting the Elks to announce over the course of 2 days or so.
Yeah.
The majority of these
And
signs.
Jared
They won't.
Stern's official.
It's Winnipeg.
That's a good one. I was really hoping that they would, because again, another really good depth guy, a guy who's not afraid to go over the middle too, get your ball. He's tough. He's played well for us.
The
Yeah.
writers always find those good. But
they're-
look at Tevin Jones, man.
Tevin Jones, but this is also
a
again
rough loss,
coming
but-
back
Yeah, I
to
like
my
Tevin Jones.
they don't have your bona fide number one, big money receiver. They
Just
got
solid.
guys that will go in and block, and then when the ball comes to them, they'll do their job, right? And they got young guys coming up. Myers, Duncan Busby, like there's a couple of really good guys that could show really well for them.
Very nice, Brennan.
In that Farhan tweet
Yeah,
from
Farhan's
up
tweet.
there.
Look at her.
And Canadians,
He was
too.
good.
Yeah.
They're pretty.
Uh,
He had a nice connection early in the season with MBT.
Yeah, he did. Big Dave texting in. I love what Ed has done to bolster up this team. Elks have had a solid free agency. We're just waiting for those deals to become official.
Who gets announced first?
I think Tyrell.
You think Tyrell?
It's a huge.
Farhan-
That would be,
signing.
More official.
Hmm?
Nafis Lyons, Amari Henderson, Matthew Shields, official with the Ottawa Red Black.
I wonder if the CFL went to the teams and said, you can announce players, but like, let's space them out. Like,
Yeah.
you announce a group of 3 here. That
Yeah.
if they already knew these signings as a league, plan that out.
I
and
just
let the
want
teams
one
know.
big release.
You just want one
all
big-
of them. Here they are.
We're done for our day.
Yeah.
Piss off.
So you asked us about where you're thinking the
East.
how the teams in the East and everything. What about you guys? Are you the same way or
I think Montreal, to me, I will go with is a clear cut
number one?
top dog.
Really?
Why so?
Yeah.
No
I-
hesitations with Alexander?
No, I'm really high on Alexander. Like there was a point where
Huh.
I didn't know if Trey Ford was going to be an Elk or not, and I was like, I could live with the Edmonton Elks being run by Davis Alexander as opposed to Trey. Like if it's not Trey Ford, I really like what I've seen from him last year. You could say that Montreal just is a good team, and he came in and he looked really good, but he looked better than Cody Fajardo to me. Like he continued that so well.
think he's-
and he's so young.
Do you think he's stronger than Chad Kelly then too, or
I
what would you?
I think Chad Kelly's a better quarterback than Davis Alexander, but Davis Alexander has
Has a
more
better team?
weapons right now, or like a
How
better
so?
team right now. I Philpott might be the best receiver in the Canadian Football League, at least for
Whoa.
last year. He was amazing last season, and before injury, like he was
He's a stud. Yeah.
unbelievable. You bring in Austin Mack.
Yeah, full season.
You got him for the full season. Defensively, they were banged up last year, and they still found players, and they still kept going. I'm high on Montreal. Toronto, I will be. It's them and Ottawa will fight for number 2. I don't think they're like distances away from Montreal, but I think then those 2 teams fight because for Toronto they do have Chad Kelly.
Yeah.
And that to me is that they'll have a full season of Chad Kelly again, unless he's an idiot.
They have the better running back.
Who?
Toronto, I would say.
Do they?
I would say Brown is better than Fletcher.
Fletch is underrated, but
He is, but
I think
big
as-
games.
He
Yeah.
succeeds in.
As
He does.
somebody-
He does well for what Montreal
As somebody who
needs.
had him in the Dunya last year,
But fantasy's
and
a little different.
I understand, but when you're still only putting up 46 yards, he can block. He can block. And
he's more of a he's more of a
catch balls.
outside of the
Yeah,
back.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
But he wasn't overly.
The difference,
I don't know.
the difference with Toronto
take
though
Brown over.
is how are they replacing their D line?
Yeah.
That's the big part.
Yeah.
But we talked about
Same way
Edmonton.
they do every.
I know, but you lose defensive line coach
Yeah.
along with 3 guys of that D line. That's a lot that you're not. And their DCs are. I don't know who their DC is right now because they had co-DCs last year. They were going to bring in Monson from Calgary. That ended up falling through. They let one of their co-DCs go somewhere else. And I don't know if they re-signed the other co-DC to be their DC. So there's a lot of changes coaching staff-wise.
But they had changes coaching staff wise last year too.
With Mace going to
Mace leaving,
Saskatchewan. So, but that's where I can't put them ahead of Montreal because I don't know
Fair
who
enough,
they
yeah.
are. Ottawa, I do like some of the moves that they've made, so I have them there. Hamilton, I just don't trust Bo staying healthy this year.
And their defense is not very good. I know they picked up Stubblefield, but they
And
need,
they're losing Chris Jones. They turned it around when they had Chris Jones last year. I will be
They're
critical of Chris
secondary,
Jones
yeah.
for his end in Edmonton, but he's still an amazing defensive
Yeah,
line and defensive
100%.
coordinator. And we saw a difference that the Hamilton Tiger Cats were when Chris Jones went there, that they almost got into the playoffs because of that defense last year,
Go to the West.
Chris Jones. So that's how I kind
Yeah.
of break it. The West. Oh, well, you didn't go East for you.
Montreal, Toronto at the top, and then I feel like, honestly, I feel like Hamilton and Ottawa are just in no man's land for some reason. But we were talking about before we went on the air, Ottawa finds a way. They find a way, and they're sneaky, and you're just like, there's nothing about them that
They'll
really
win those games that they
entices
shouldn't.
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, Ottawa won. Or, hey, how did Edmonton lose to Ottawa? Well, I can tell you, Boris Beatty was a terrible, terrible execution of
Beatty.
kicks. But you're right, Luke. Like, you're like, all of a sudden, you're watching, you go to the highlights, and you're like, how did Ottawa win
Sweet,
that
we
game?
tied Ottawa.
Yeah, exactly. It's so
Awesome.
bizarre.
They're the ones that give you the ties.
Yeah, I go Montreal, Toronto, flip flop them 1-2, whatever, and then to me, it's a crapshoot between Hamilton and Ottawa.
Before we get to the West, portions of this hour of the EST Hangout, they are brought to you by Lloyd's Insurance Brokers, the proud sponsor of the EST Fun Spiel, which will be taking place this Saturday. Lloydsad.com. They are one of Alberta's largest and most trusted independent insurance brokerages. If you have a business and you're looking for insurance, connect with Kevin Bondel with Lloydsad. He is a fellow nasty. He's got his team in this Saturday. But Lloydsad, thank you very much for being the proud presenting sponsor of the EST Fun Spiel. Hernan Salas, Lucas Holt, Matt Iwanyk, Tom Gazzola with you here on the EST Hangout, presented by Sentinel Storage. We got Lock Shop, Two Guys, EST Afternoons, Reed Wilkins Show still to come here on EST today on this CFL Free Agency Day. So the West, if you had a rank on it, who wants to go first on that?
oh boy,
start
it's tough, man. But right now, I'd have Sask and Winnipeg 1-2. I think third is going to be a battle between Edmonton and BC.
And Calgary still.
And Calgary
up there.
still at the bottom, yeah. It's tough, man, because I've kind of turned on BC because of the defense. I'm not high on Benny
We've
either.
changed it a bit.
Yeah. Benny's not the best D coordinator.
No.
Like you said, he's very plays a lot of zone. Bend don't break. I don't think that's what they need there. I don't like the lack of run game in BC. Their O line's not
But
very
that could
good.
change though too.
Yeah, it could.
New offensive coordinator.
Yeah,
But
I think Sask in year 2 of Mace is gonna be really good. Like Luke said, Winnipeg, until you knock them off, they're Winnipeg.
Yeah.
So I think it's gonna be those two up top. Edmonton. Right now, I'll go Edmonton 3rd, BC 4, Calgary 5. Even though I think Calgary's better this year.
yeah. Yeah, I would and again, this is all if everybody stays healthy. And I only say this just because there's been year after year of just painful injury. But yes, Sask and Winnipeg 1-2 followed really, really closely by Edmonton. Like it's kind of down to which way the wind blows in Montreal, last play of the game kind of thing, depending on where Winnipeg and Edmonton end up. somebody's 2, somebody's 3, that kind of thing. Like, but then I honestly think Calgary would be 4 and BC 5.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah,
Like
I
that.
think Calgary. I don't think they can be any worse than they were last year, and even at some points too, last year they showed a little bit of glimmer. Their defense questionable, but again, they're getting some guys back. Bagleton, if he can, because was he there all year last year? I can't remember.
He might have been banged up a little bit.
Yeah,
A
but
couple years ago, he
Henry
there.
was hurt almost all year.
Big fan
I
of
don't
his.
know what's going to happen with their running game now that they lost Logan, though. Too, if Logan signs now, they're literally just
And
with
Logan's supposed to be
Mills.
going to Winnipeg.
Yeah.
Peyton
But
Logan.
VA, they got Jones down there too in receiver.
Dominic Rhymes.
Rhymes. So yeah, like they could be better. I think they'd be better than BC. BC is just they're
I say
an
one thing?
injury away from
Well, also, I think it played in a little bit this season. And can you heal these wounds? VA was a big leader in that locker room.
Yeah.
And they impacted their locker room when they brought in Rourke during the season. And did you have people? How is that going to be? Is the room better? Have you recovered from that, or is that still there a little bit of a fracture there? Like now, I
That's
said
a
it
good
like
point.
I think that week when Rourke eventually signed, 'cause I didn't think he was going to come. That should have been an off-season move. You allow VA to go throughout the season, and even if he wins a Grey Cup, you then could be like, Nathan Rourke wants to come back home. We're naturally going to move on, and then you can move on from VA and bring in Rourke. Doing that season,
he was
you created-
record pace
you
with
put a-
yardage and
You put a fracture in that locker room, and is that fracture still there?
Did they panic because they were hosting the Grey Cup?
Yes.
Yeah.
100% they did.
Well, and I think there is a marketing behind Rourke too, right?
Yeah.
Like you can.
200 grand in marketing money.
Yeah, so you want to sell tickets.
Yeah.
You want to be able to say that, hey, we got Air Canada here and all that kind of stuff. Like, so I think they wanted to get him before anyone else could, and so that's why
Fair.
they did what they did at
I
that
also
point
don't
in
think he
time.
would have went anywhere else.
I don't think so either, but they don't know that, I guess, right? If someone's willing to pay him money,
I would.
Winnipeg,
He
let's say
could've,
Winnipeg.
He could have jumped on somebody else's practice roster in the National Football League, still made the NFL money, and be like, "Hey, look, we've got the deal signed for next year."
Yeah, we're good
Sure.
to go.
Like
A
that's-
gentleman's agreement.
I think. For me,
I don't care for those.
I'm going against what I believe. I never believe in betting against. Prove me until you prove that you're not that anymore. But I'm betting against the Bombers. I think it's Saskatchewan, Edmonton 1-2 battle out. 1-2.
Nice.
I think the Riders ultimately do take it. But I think it's a battle Riders, Edmonton 1-2. Winnipeg comes in at 3, battling with BC. And Calgary comes up 4. But one thing I do like about what I think... last year, Calgary was the easy punching bag.
Yeah.
No one else was. There was a point, Fred, at any point of the season. We were talking about the Elks winning the Grey Cup at a point of the season. Now, we were ridiculous and got bottom to the hype of their winning streak. But we were talking about the Grey Cup. And Hamilton was looking like they were going to be in playoffs. There was moments where teams were just
was great. Yeah.
unbeatable, except Calgary. And I hope we get that this year where there is no 14, 13 win team. Like I think we looked yesterday, the Bombers won the West at 11 wins.
Yeah.
I would love to see some, where it's just all compressed.
Yeah.
Right down to, and I think Calgary is better this year. I think Hamilton is better this year. I don't think if Winnipeg drops off, it's that significant. I think BC's going to win football games still. I just don't see them better than the other teams. And I hope we just have like another year like we did last year where it's like, I don't know who's going to win week in and week out.
Everyone could lose that week and everyone could win that week. That's
Hamilton goes and beats Winnipeg one week, but then just gets destroyed by Calgary the week after. And you're sitting there going, what is going on here? I don't know.
That was
That's what I hope.
mid-season last year.
Yes.
It
And
was
I
crazy.
hope we have a continuation of that. But I'll say Edmonton, Saskatchewan battling for the West this year.
Ooh. My turn.
Yeah.
I'm going to say this reluctantly. Saskatchewan first. Edmonton, Winnipeg battling for 2. I think Winnipeg wins that.
And so what is it then? What is it about? Why? What is with Saskatchewan that?
I feel like there's a good momentum there.
Yeah. Okay.
I
There's
really
good
do.
vibes, man.
I think Mace, as a second-year head coach, learned from mistakes last year.
Yeah.
You look at last year, when they got on their losing streak, it was one of those like we were talking about the Elks always finding different ways to lose. There was the tie
Yeah.
There was Brett Lawther not being able to make a single kick that one game.
That was tough.
There was the Toronto game where it was the walk-off Rouge.
Yeah.
Like it was just so close to where Saskatchewan could have just dominated the West last year.
Totally.
And now, okay, what is AJ Ouellette this season?
But they were they snuck one out
Sure.
in Edmonton. They
So-
snuck two out, or they snuck one out in Hamilton.
Yeah.
That was you should not have won that game.
But you have AJ Ouellette, who's hopefully healthy this year, and what
Yeah.
does he bring to that team?
And if you don't have him, you have a
You have
Armstead.
a backup who has shown that as a backup is very capable in Jake Mayer. Like there are players there that they've kept some really good defenders. Like Sales is a huge signing.
and they signed Rose.
Mike
out of
Rose from Calgary.
They
Oh, yeah, I meant to add him on
re-upped Micah Johnson.
So the defense is going to stick. Like the only thing I'll say is Edmonton, for some reason, knew how to beat Saskatchewan, and they have for a couple years. And last year, when Edmonton went to Saskatchewan in August and dominated.
Yeah, that was a tough
That's
one.
the one win Edmonton or Trey Ford ever has. I think I could point to a top defense that he's won against. That's why, though, I have Saskatchewan is that it's a year improved. The old line it was good last year.
Harris is just competent too. Like
Yes.
he's one of those quarterbacks that's
Smart, yeah.
He can play old man football for a couple more years. He's 38 or whatever.
He's not
now.
going to win you a Grey Cup.
That's
That's his knock.
so that's why I'm talking regular season. That's why Sasky to me.
Clip it. I want that clipped.
That's the clip
Also
right there,
thanks for
B.
that because it's going to be.
He's
true.
not. He doesn't win Grey Cups.
Yeah.
I'll steal this quote for a different play from Mark Spector. He's just good enough to get you beat. He'll get you there. He won't be able to win the big game. Kevin Glenn, same type of guy.
Yeah.
He'll get
And
you close,
That's
but
where
not
Jake
finish you
Mayer
off.
comes in and starts.
Did you guys get rid of Alford?
No, they re-signed him.
You don't like that?
Nah, I don't know how much they're paying him, but like you could see, you've seen kind of a steady decline with him over the last few years. He's getting older, and in like you have like there's a Dante Myers receiver, really fast guy, young guy. You know, get rid of Alford, get him back. They're doing that. Have him also in their receiving game. I don't know if you really necessarily need Alford anymore. Prove me wrong, but I think that would have been one of the guys they could have walked away from.
That is fascinating to watch about the Elks this year. Is they brought in Lee to be a good returner last year. He became a running back and he stopped returning. Does he return footballs this season? But with Rankin maybe being the lead back.
Who else was returning balls for you last year?
Gavin
Gavin
Cobb,
Cobb.
Dylan
Purifoy?
Mitchell, and Purifoy.
Oh yeah,
And all three of those guys are going.
They're all gone.
So yeah,
I like to me, you have
Purifoy
Rankin.
anywhere?
Rankin should be your
Suspended.
starting running back to
Yeah.
me. Rankin to me is the starting over Leak.
Yes.
So Leak could return the kick and then he can go get his breather on the sideline. And then if you need him after a couple plays, he could still come back out there.
I like
Yeah.
his style though. He's big, he's punishing, whereas Rankin's shifty and
It's gonna be
darts in
interesting
and out.
what they do with those two guys because Rankin might be the number one,
Should be.
and then they'll come in with Leak a little bit after because Leak's a hell of a returner.
And that's where you could then use him as the returner.
Yeah, because right now,
But I like the idea of a guy that's not just his position.
Yeah.
Is to return. Like you should be able to kind of wear multiple hats in that.
well, last year with Dylan Mitchell and Lucius Purifoy, it was more of just ball security.
Yeah.
Then they know they weren't getting a big return.
But is that something
Just
though, too?
catch
Like
the ball, don't
Leak had a
fumble it.
little bit of butter on his hands.
He did.
last
Yeah.
But that was,
Early in the
but that was
early.
offense.
Yeah.
Early.
But that was on offense.
Yeah, it was.
That was when he was playing as a running back.
Yeah.
So I think they need to have him a little bit as the returner, or it's who's your returner. Now, Cody Grace is coming in as the punter with Jake Julian going to Tampa. That's a nice addition, and that is a Mark Killam addition as well, you would have to think. Kicking is going to be the one concern, though, is they go young. There's going to be question marks about
Blanchard.
that, and we'll see how that goes.
Can I tie this together?
Sure.
Really nice. I thought it was hilarious with Jake Julian going. Remember when he got the walk-off punt for the win? I had to interview Javon Link at the end of the game. And I was like, Javon, that was a crazy game. Like teams trading points back and forth. You guys went on a punt. He's like, man, I don't know what just happened. And I've been in this league for like 3 years, but I like what happened. He's like, I'm happy we
See,
won.
he's probably also a fan of the Rouge. And if
It's terrible.
Hernan wasn't here, I'd come over and kick the crap out of you.
Bring it on.
The Rouge is beautiful.
It is.
That's
It's
terrible.
And okay, so I want to actually get this because there's been many times in my van I've been like,
Oh my
screaming
God.
at
Okay, before you
at
get
the radio
there,
about this.
the official drink of the EST Hangout, which we might need after this, is the Finnish long drink, Legend of 1952, drink unlike any other sparkling refreshment. Real liquor, longdrink.com/Canada.
I know your argument about it is it's always about like winning a game over, right? Like you can win a game on a punt single through the end zone. What I like about the Rouge is that, again, we've talked about things of where like field position wise, right? If you don't want to give up the point, you're going to give like that kind of. But what it will also do is it will change how, 3 minutes at the beginning of the game getting a Rouge drastically changes how maybe possibly the last 3 minutes is now. Instead of kicking a field goal, you got to get a touchdown. So that kind of stuff, having that extra point that will maybe not, but will come back to haunt you later on.
It adds
That's what I
layers
love
to
about
the
it is
game.
that exactly right.
I still
So
don't care for it.
it can really skew things later on down the road. So do you give it up now? It's not always just, well, we kicked the ball through the end zone on a missed field goal and that's how we're going to win the game. It can be, well, that when he took the knee in the end zone is how we win the game now because they need to get a touchdown instead of a field goal. That's what I love about it is that you can see something happen at the 3-minute mark in the first quarter that affects the game at the end of the game.
I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I do. And I like that.
But
it adds,
I've also screamed about it too, saying that like, okay, maybe on field goals, if you miss a field goal, if you're purposely going for a field goal and you miss the field goal, you shouldn't be rewarded. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
But there is a place for the Rouge in the CFL. For sure. It
Lucas,
can't be
to me,
eliminated completely.
ultimately, it just rewards failure. And I don't think that is a right thing
Not every
in
single
sport.
time.
But
it doesn't reward
the
failure every
basic,
time.
most underlying thing about the Rouge is rewarding failure. You can make the argument about adding layers to the
But
game.
then we
how
can
it's
also make
affected.
arguments about rewarding a point to losing in overtime. You failed to win
Yeah.
the game.
And
You're
that's
only
not
getting a
great
point
either.
because you were able to play longer.
But Jake Julian's win against Toronto, it wasn't failure.
No,
it was they called it.
It was called to do.
Yeah,
so
but it was
this-
John,
but
it's
I
a
under-
loophole in the
but
rule
that's
book.
okay. But
That's
so
not a
is
loophole in the rule book.
so is
That's
the
the
little
point of it.
Yeah,
It's
but this
dumb.
is but that's
and I
it.
don't look at it as a rewarding.
look at it as
it's
rewarding
It's a
failure.
punishment for not returning the ball.
I hate that argument.
But it's
I
a
hate
punishment.
that argument.
That's what it
No.
is.
You can
You're
look
being
at-
punished. It's the same as if I get sacked in the end zone as a quarterback, my team is punished 2 points. It's a safety. If I don't return this ball out of the end zone, I am punished.
You don't want to start
by
on the
a
1 yard
single
line. You'll
point.
give up a point, and then you can
And
move
that's
up.
and so you have to look at it as a punishment. It's not.
No,
well,
I'm not
well,
looking
like,
at it as a punishment.
It's not always about rewarding failure. Sometimes it's you're looking at what is more important. Is it giving up that point is more important
Don't
than
leave just yet.
Jump in here.
We got 15 minutes.
you got to hang around.
Get him in here.
We'll get him on the hangout again.
No, yeah, like I said, there are certain things that could probably be revised about the Rouge.
Yeah,
And-
just get rid
and-
of it.
No, not at all. It is something that needs to stay in the CFL. Missing a field goal and rewarding with a point if it goes out. But again,
I'm fine with that.
if you miss the field goal and the guy catches the ball and takes a knee, okay, that was their choice to take the knee and not bring it out.
Yeah,
So
that's a good point. Yeah.
you know,
that's where I could live with if it goes through the end zone. We're going to
Yeah.
get rid of that's.
you missed it.
And
But
the
if
other
they-
team couldn't return it. But if they catch it,
And they
now
take
it's
a
on
knee?
to you.
Yeah.
It's you return this ball out of the end zone. I actually don't mind Bell's
Or also-
point where he says like if it's caught and you choose not to return it, you're at the 5.
Because you know what I
or
love. You know
something like
what
that.
I
Or if you try to return it, no matter what, like you get a certain.
What I absolutely love is like say Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football, and the fireworks are going off, and then they boot the ball, and it goes out, and you just, all right,
What a way to start
Yeah.
a game.
CJ Sims,
yeah,
when he took the knee because he didn't know what
Yeah.
he was doing, like that wasn't rewarding failure.
that was punishment
just-
for
That was punishment
for being an
not knowing.
idiot.
Yeah,
Twist
Yeah.
it how you want.
No, that was punishment.
It's Saskatchewan sitting there saying, "Okay, we'll take it."
yeah.
It's a punishment for playing
Bring it
poor,
out.
and
Because
it's it's a reward for Saskatchewan for putting the ball in a spot where Edmonton screwed up.
And he because he had enough time to run it out
Yes.
or at least try, but he didn't know the rules.
And it's not like we punted it into. It's not like we punted it into the end zone.
Yeah.
like it dropped
rolled.
and rolled.
Yeah,
in.
yeah,
so
yeah.
so catch it, and
That's a good point.
Like,
yeah.
yeah. I don't know. I
Did we
there's-
turn, Tom?
There are Tom.
No.
I understand I understand where, but it's not just a one-way street about what the rule is, and you miss field goals and you get an extra point. There are more layers to it, and
Yes.
that's why I believe that
You're getting into the
Rouge,
minutia and nuance.
exactly.
And for
it
me,
changed,
there's a
like,
simple solution so that we don't have to deal with it. Just get rid of it.
So, but then what happens then to the game when you get rid of it?
When you get rid of it,
Yeah.
the game makes more sense.
How? So we
Because
kick
it's
we kick
simpler.
the ball, and it lands in. So you just take the knee and move up to the 20.
That is correct.
Why?
Because
But that's what makes the NFL terrible.
So why there would be no
No,
there'd be
the
no
kicking game
reason there'd be no reason to ever return anything if it ever goes in the end zone. We just take
you
the
got
knees.
way more room if you have somebody who can make a move and find a hole.
But why would he want to? We just move it up to the 20, just in case he gets.
They'll never return it. They'll never
You can
return
return it because if you have a guy who is a game changer on the return, he has so much room as opposed to the NFL where it's a tight field that I think that incentive, your eyes light up, and I'm like, okay, I got a lane, I can take this. I'm in the CFL, I have a huge field.
So
I
if
think
you
that is enticing enough to,
so now you're
to
also
make sure that the return game still is thriving.
So then let's
in
say this
CFL.
too. They're backed up on their 5-yard line and they have to punt. Right, it's 3rd and 20, and so instead of you hit the ball, you're in the end zone. You run around for a bit and you run out the back of the end zone, and all right. Now
Now
they're
you're talking about the safety.
yeah. So now you don't get any single point for that, right? They get off the hook for
That's a 2-point play.
Yeah.
It's a safety.
if he takes a knee in the end zone. If the punter takes a knee in the end
It's
zone,
a safety.
Yeah.
2 points.
You're bringing the ball into your own end zone.
sorry.
That one's a safety.
No. But get rid of that then. Get rid of that. That's
Because you didn't do anything as
You didn't do anything. Why would you get
the
that?
quarterback going into your own zone?
Get rid of-
But the offense didn't do anything on that play. The special teams, the other team just giving up
You're
points.
conceding. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So the other team
I
is
don't
getting
love
rewarded
that in
for
the CFL
nothing.
either, but
But
Well, that's in sports.
That's
That's
a
football.
sport.
That
Get
is
rid of it
football.
completely.
that's a football rule. Whereas the Rouge
But-
is a silly one.
Like, and that
Canadian
CJ
football.
Sims again, it wasn't a field goal.
It was.
It was
It was
on
off
the
the
kickoff.
kickoff.
It was off the
Yeah.
kickoff.
When they scored a touchdown.
It was after
Yes.
the touchdown.
Because
then.
it was like
an
a
11-point
right.
swing.
He let it hit like around the 10 and it rolled
Yeah.
I
into the end
think
zone.
I think most people that are in support of the Rouge, if they did it with missed field goals, it made an adjustment. It'd be fine. But every
I
other
would-
spot, it makes sense for the game.
You need to, yeah. It or else let's go to
When
four
I
downs
take
and
over
fair
for
catches.
Randy next year, the first thing I'm doing,
Who
and it's
is-
going to make
do
me
we-
super popular, is
There
get
has
rid
been
of
no
it.
names. There's been no discussions as of yet. The CFL did say that they were going to take their time with this. Randy, it was even when he announced that there was talk that he would be there for the start of this upcoming season.
Are you happy to not have Randy anymore?
100%.
Yeah.
Maybe that's where JMO was going. CFL.
Oh,
So there's
right
the two. One is I will say Randy has left the league in a better shape than it started when it comes to ownership.
Yes.
He's better than Orridge.
Then where it's. But he didn't.
But no, anyways.
There's not a lot of other things he did that grew this league. CFL 2.0 didn't work.
No.
I follow
COVID was a
a
fail.
few Mexican accounts.
I
that
think
LFL.
Yeah.
he blew it in COVID when he it was the
yeah.
only league that didn't play. The CBL played, the CPL played.
But would you have been in a better situation financially if you would have played
Yes.
that without having any? This is a completely gate driven league. I
Yeah,
know
but
it
it's-
takes you out of the eyes and everything, but you're gonna be
there would have had to been a way to play. It was they didn't. I'll go back to when he went to go speak to the House of Commons committee.
Yeah.
He was not prepared. He was very
Right.
combative.
Yes, okay.
He should have brought the PA with him.
Yeah.
I don't know if they would have got money in the end,
Mm-hmm.
but he put himself in such a tough spot to get money. I also am very happy that he's gone if they hire Mike Morale.
okay.
Because he is a commissioner of a league. He started it from scratch. He knows what it takes to run a league and loves this game.
Yeah.
I would take Mike Morale.
And where's he from?
What do you mean?
Hamilton?
What do you mean from? Like,
I
where is he?
where
currently?
is he? He is a Canadian, right?
He played
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
CFL.
he was Hamilton Tiger Cats.
Yeah. Okay. Is
The
he because
and now he's in the commission of the CBL.
Randy was a bomber, right?
And then no, he won the Grey Cup with the '93 with the Elks.
I was gonna
Well,
say
ask him
that's bomber. No wonder.
But he was
Yeah.
he's from the Winnipeg region. He was with business in Winnipeg. But Mark Morale, like the business experience he now has is creating the CBL.
Yeah.
And loves the Canadian Football League. If he's the ultimate hire, then I'm like even happier Randy's gone because it's like the right
But
guy.
that's
to me
just
has come in.
rumor. Like nothing
One
is-
person
Yeah.
told me that he would be interested prior.
The league is, and you go back to the ownership situation, as flush with cash, I think, in a long time. We'll see what happens with the next TV deal. Obviously, that's huge, but the next commissioner is set up in a way with these new owners that the path to success is
TV deal.
brighter,
Though, that's your.
That'll be the
that's
number
your
one.
biggest,
That's the
yeah.
first thing that needs to be done because the TV deal, and they've got 2 more seasons with the TSN for this broadcast.
Yeah.
What would you do if you were like? Where would you guys go to a streaming service for the CFL? Like, I don't know if that's.
I don't know.
I think it's,
If you're on Netflix potentially or Amazon Prime, it could work because you're now with them. I'm gonna look closely at Rogers
yeah.
because
I think
either the one of 2 things is happening here. Either Rogers is going to sell the Toronto Argonauts because why do they care? Or Rogers, as they own the Toronto Argonauts, are going to sit there and go, we want a piece of the broadcast package. One of those 2 things is going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't see how it just stays status quo where the broadcast rights go somewhere. Rogers just owns this entity. If they're going to own this entity, they're going to want to help promote said entity. Or if they don't care about this entity anymore, they're going to give it up.
Can they?
So
It
we've
can't
got
just
like
go.
30
It can't
seconds.
just go back to one.
No, it's got to be spread out.
It's got to be.
Well, even though I'm on the broadcast, there's a lot of complacency discussion about.
Just look at this here with
Broadcast.
some of the lineup photos. Like the last game of the Elks, they had Gino Lewis when he was like 18.
Well, I'm still seeing that the BC helmet when Jonathan
Yeah.
Jennings was, like little things like that. Like the rider
And then you
face
watch-
mask is black. It hasn't been like that. And then
And then you watch
Yeah,
Grey Cup and
that's
you
a good
go,
point.
they do great job.
Yeah.
They can do it.
Can we not do this each
Can we
week?
not have some of this throughout the rest of the
and
season?
it's such a great game, and we all love it. Like I love it, and
Yeah,
I just sometimes you'd watch it, you wish to be a little bit more put into it.
And it's funny too because without TSN there would
Exactly.
be no league, right? So
Yeah.
they're also it's that meme where the guy's riding the bike and he puts his own stick in the spoke. Like it's it's just it hurts.
The helmet thing, that detail pisses me off too.
It's something so small that
Yeah.
you can change so easy.
Gents, thanks for coming early. Good seeing you. Thanks for
great.
coming in.
Thank you.
Thanks for the breakfast.
Yeah.
CFL
thank
for agency. It is now open. The Elks have, I don't even know what Ed's doing. Is
Yeah.
he making any moves?
Sleeping.
Keep it locked. We got Lock Shop. We've got 2 guys in Nagola. We've got EST Afternoons. We've got the Reed Wilkins Show with Jay Milne as we keep you updated on everything that's going on with the Edmonton Elks and the Canadian Football League. Thanks to everyone for tuning into the EST Hangout presented by Sentinel Storage on this CFL for Agency Day. On behalf of Hernan, Lucas, Tom, Brendan, I am Matt. Thanks for tuning in to the Hangout. Lock Shop in just a few minutes. Don't go anywhere.
Let's go. There you go, right in front of the camera.
First time guest, long time listener, fan of the original draft commissioner.
Welcome to the EST Hangout presented by White Claw Hard Seltzer. The difference is clear. Matt Iwanyk, Tom Zola with here. Joining us today